The story originates in one of the school lessons. The teacher takes notes at the blackboard and reads the myth of the Tangan to the students. The teacher tells that the prediction showed that a new conflict will occur. He went on to say that after the ordeal of eating garlic and wormwood, the bear who became human joined the victorious bear clan, and the tiger, unable to become a human, joined the losing tiger clan. They participated in the subsequent events, which are nowadays called ancient myths. While the teacher was reading, one of the students was sleeping sweetly and not reacting to anything around him. The teacher began to announce the grades for the previous lesson and noticed that one of his students was sleeping. A girl came up to the student and started shouting, "Hassan!" The boy woke up in surprise and asked what was wrong. The girl's name was Yoon, and she asked Hassan why he should come to school if he was just sleeping. The girl's name was Yoon, and she asked Hassan why he should come to school if he was just sleeping. Then Yoon asked Hassan if his eye was okay. The boy said he hadn't noticed anything unusual so far. After class, the boy went to the store to buy something to eat. However, he unwittingly witnessed something unusual. Two schoolgirls were talking about how the new cashier at the store is incredibly handsome. All the girls in their class want to go out with him. It seemed nothing unusual, but Hassan saw this cashier not as a charming handsome man, but as a real ugly man. The schoolgirls at that time went to punch out their goods and asked the cashier for his phone number. He was embarrassed and agreed. It started a long time ago. Hassan got the ability to see unusual creatures. The guy doesn't know their nature, but obviously they are trying to hide their essence and exist with humans. So the guy concluded that they don't want to hurt anyone. Hassan frequents the store, but this was the first time he'd seen the cashier, so he figured it wouldn't be a problem. Suddenly the cashier looked at the guy and smiled. At the same time, he said to himself that he had finally found it. Hassan was walking home after a hard day's work and suddenly heard meowing. He saw a cute little kitty and couldn't resist the sight. At the store, the guy specifically bought the cat canned food and happily opened it for the cat. The kitty was enjoying her food and suddenly, out of the blue, she started hissing, baring her teeth and holding her tail up. Two strangers approached Hassan. One of them began to say that every night he couldn't sleep because of a crappy meow. The guy responded that he didn't see any problem as they were quite far away from the residences. Suddenly, Hassan looked the stranger in the face. The boy immediately apologized and said that he would be more careful from now on. Hassan began to pack in a hurry and said he had to go home. The stranger ordered him to stand still. He realized that Hassan had seen his essence. Hassan wondered how the stranger knew that. He realized he was in trouble and needed to get out of there. So the guy made the decision that he needed to run as fast as possible and as far away as possible. The stranger laughed and shouted after Hassan that it was useless to run away. Suddenly his fingers turned into snakes. The snakes caught up with the boy in an instant and began biting him in all sorts of places. Hassan began to scream in fright. The boy fell to the ground exhausted. The freak said he'd weakened the poison, but even that dose would take a couple minutes to reach Hassan's heart. Then he ordered the guy to show his essence if he cared about his life. After all, no one could help him anymore. The freak began to shout and address Hassan, nicknamed the Tiger. The guy did not understand at all what was going on and why he was called that. Hassan thought he had been confused with someone else. He felt incredible pain and did not want to die like that. A huge tiger with glowing eyes actually appeared over the guy's body. The boy was shocked and couldn't understand if this was the last thing he would see before he died. Hassan remembered that his favorite animal was a cat. At this time, the ugly man was glad that this time the monkey was not wrong. Now it was clear to him why the tiger could not be found. He was inside the man. The tiger carried Hassan's body. He apologized to the boy for putting him through the suffering and asked him to wait a little longer as he had to deal with those freaks. But the tiger promised that it wouldn't take long. The animals decided to attack the tiger, counting on the fact that it had just awakened and was still weak. The tiger quickly disposed of the two mutts of the ringleader. Then the serpentine decided to send his snakes to the tiger. The freak told the tiger that he could hardly kill him, but paralyzing him was a real possibility. The tiger crushed the unfortunate snakes with one hand. He replied to the freak that he had a snake's tongue and no venom. The tiger began to pull the serpentine man towards him, grabbing him by the snakes he had let fly. However, The ugly man instantly dissolved and managed to get away. The tiger then turned back around and saw the boy's body and the kitty who hadn't left his side the whole time. The next morning, Tiger got up before everyone else and decided to come to Hassan's house. But he did not open the door to him for a long time, and Tiger had to open it by force. Tiger, seeing Hassan with his eyes open, said, "If he is already awake, then why is he still not making breakfast?" Hassan didn't expect this turn of events, and said that he told Tiger earlier not to break in, and let him, he calls him Hassan. Tiger thought about his name and said Hassan or Hadal, whatever. He was very hungry. Hassan wondered if this winner and that guy were the same person. How could one be so ravenous? And now a week has passed since the incident, but he still doesn't understand what really happened there. He doesn't remember anything after the snake attack, but he also has a hard time believing his stories about what happened in the past. Tiger asked Hassan what he was looking at him for. After all, he had said earlier that he was very hungry. Hassan was very lazy to go make them some food. He slowly got up from his chair and told Tiger to wait a little while. Tiger looked at the guy arrogantly and saw him out of reluctance go to make them some food. Tiger began to hear strange noises coming from the room. When he turned around, he saw a cat taking its food. Hassan cooked them fried eggs without thinking for a long time. He was curious and asked the boy, "So he's a tiger from Tangan mythology? Is the tiger the one that ran away because it couldn't finish the wormwood and garlic?" At this time, Tiger took the cat's bowl of food and asked the guy what he was talking about. "He eats everything, including wormwood and garlic. And what are these tangoons anyway?" While Hassan was preparing their food, he didn't have time to see Tiger eating out of a bowl and asked him why he was eating that. Letting the drool out of his mouth, he asked him, "Why not? It was still a very tasty meal. And why did the guy bring that thing here? He just eats all his food." And then he started to argue with the cat and asked him, "Does he want to fight him?" The cat was also very strong and was ready to fight for his food. Hassan couldn't believe that this strange guy could be straight out of the myths. Hassan got curious and asked the guy, was he familiar with that snake that attacked him back then? Tiger said the guy was talking about the bastard who ran away after he realized he couldn't win. Hassan told Tiger that it looked like his attackers knew him. Did they manage to awaken him? Tiger thought for a long time about what to say, and raising his hand showed something unpredictable that even made Hassan scared. Demonstrating this, tigre saw the pendant that was suspended around Hassan's neck, and asked where he got it from. Hassan said without thinking for a long time that it was from his mother. Tiger became so curious that he argued, "Where is his mother now?" For Hassan, this conversation was very unpleasant and managed to say that he did not know. Tiger realized what the pendant was and told the guy to make sure he always wore it, since terrible things could happen to him now. Hassan thought, why is Tigre trying to act cool all of a sudden? He's nothing but trouble. It was time for school, and in the classroom, the teacher was telling all the students to take their seats and asked the new boy to introduce himself. The students were surprised by this announcement and were already gossiping that this guy was so short. The boy was very shy and said that he welcomed everyone and his name is Yang Hu. He is very happy to be in their class. At this time, Hassan was sitting in the back, and when he saw the new guy, he was surprised. He said that this guy was just like those things. There was a big rush of people at the school break, and as always, Pac-Man and his gang were walking around the hallway. At this time, Yang also decided to get some air, and while walking down the hallway, he bumped into Man, causing him to fall to the ground. Man squatted down and told Yang maybe he needed to open his eyes for a change, and called him a fucking loser. Yang responded to all his words with a smile and didn't say anything. Man asked him why he was smiling. Manu became curious and taking Yang under his wing told him to go with them. After all, they would have to talk a little. Yoon watched all of this and was very scared for their newcomer, but she didn't dare to approach them. Man dragged him out to a deserted spot and asked Yang if he was laughing. Now they need to see if he'll keep laughing when he's beaten half to death. So Yang decided to say something and said that he was very bored. But Man didn't understand what he meant at first. Yang asked him, why do all bullies bully the same way? The bullies asked him, is he out of his mind with fear? Man didn't allow such insults in his direction, and attacked from behind shouting for the piece of shit to stop. Yang turned around on him and showed his true appearance, in which he was very scary that Man chilled with fear. Man slowly drooled from his mouth and asked, what is happening to him? After all, he can't move. The voice the guy heard in his head was telling him to kill them all. But Yang tried to resist and told him to stop. Mana's men stood aside and seeing such a picture asked him, "What else is he doing there?" At this time Yang sang him a song to which he carried out all his orders. And the first order was that he should take hold of a chair. Man couldn't control his actions, and along with the chair pounced on his guys. The boys asked what had gotten into him. They were begging for someone to stop him, because Man is out of his mind. He can't hear anything. Man didn't stop at one of his guys, and finished them all off with his chair. And Yengu ordered him to do it. Man didn't realize what he had done and stopped, sighing very heavily, while Yang watched everything and smiled. But Yoon didn't leave it like that, and followed them too. Yoon didn't say anything again, and after class, she caught up with Hasten. The guy asked her what was the rush. Yoon tried to tell him and started saying the guy's name. Suddenly, Yang himself suddenly came in and asked what about him. Yoon looked at him, but saw nothing even close to his essence of the real him. While Yang was smiling, Yang said that anyway Hassan, where is his house located? Hassan said it's not far from the school. But why would he want to know that? Yang got excited and asked the guy if he could come over to play with him. Yoon couldn't leave it like that and said that Hassan said he had a lot of chores to do today. Hassan remembered and said it was like that because he almost forgot. Yoon laughed and asked him how she could remember such things better than him. Throwing Yang aside, the guy got very angry that he was boiling with anger at them. He said that this girl was very clever. Yang wasn't ready to leave it like this, and following her asked her suddenly. Yoon turned around and saw Yang before she could react. Yang used his powers and asked her under hypnosis, who does she think she is? Why is she sticking her nose where it doesn't belong? Yang didn't spare her and ordered her to do something horrible. While Yoon called Hassan and said that she was on the roof of the building right now. She asked him to come to her aid very quickly. She thinks she's going to fall. While Yang was not far away from her, and looking at all of this, he could still smile. But then the older guys came in and asked him what he was doing there, because they wanted the wrong girl. And then the elders saw the guy they were looking for running this way. Hasten saw the girl at the edge of the wall and shouted to her. Young stood on her heels and told Hassan that her body was not obeying. And Yang is controlling her completely. Hassan told her to stand still, he would help her soon. The elders asked, is there really a tiger in such a frail fellow? And what is his ability? Yang lost his temper with anger and asked, what kind of buffoonery were they putting on? There's nothing special about this scum. Hassan asked Yang what he was even doing. Yang answered his own question, telling the guy to shut up. After all, he would figure out his gift. With the movements of his hand, Yang controls the girl, and slowly lifted her one leg, leaving her off balance. Yengu ordered the girl to jump down. She immediately headed down without any hesitation. The elders were all frightened when they saw it, and they couldn't stop it. Hasten immediately ran after her, shouting that it couldn't be. Watching on the corner as her friend fell to the ground, living her last moments before she died. No one could save her at that moment, and she collapsed from the 4th floor of the building with no chance of life. Yang was having a lot of fun, and even without regret at her death, he was laughing with a mouthful of saliva. But he didn't stop there and was also pointing his finger at the guy. Yengu said this guy has nothing, not even a hint of any gifts. One of the older ones said they shouldn't have trusted the case to an asshole who hollered out, relying on some cheap trick. Yang didn't like their words toward him, and repeated their same words, in a rude tone at them. Yengu decided to share that he was pissed off from the start at their shitty attitude towards him. But he wondered who they were plowing so hard for, so he accepted the damn assignment. And also indeed that sucker turned out to have no gift. Why do they despise him and wonder about him? Hassan couldn't stand it, and immediately went at him with his fists, insulting him from head to toe. Yengu saw this, and immediately waved with 2 fingers towards Hasten, leaving him no chance. Yengu told him not to show off, because breaking his neck would be like breaking his neck. Yengu slowly pushed the boy towards the corner of the house, not even feeling sorry for him. But the older man came over and told him to stop. That kid can't be hurt. Yengu smiled and told him not to order him what to do, unless of course he had a desire to die. The older man lost his temper and told the guy to shut his mouth, and showed him his powers even through his glasses. Yengu swooped down on him with his arm and asked him how much he thought they could have people dancing to their tune on them. Calling them fucking old men, he slowly twisted his neck, turning it 90 degrees. Here came the limit of the neck turning, and the head of the neck was broken into pieces. Yengu immediately threw it out of the house. The other elders also called him names and asked him what he was doing. Yengu said that this time it was his turn, and looked at the older man. Yengu decided not to hesitate, and switched to the guy, grabbing him by the neck with his hypnosis powers. Yengu began to slowly squeeze his neck, leaving him less of a chance to savor the air. Hassan couldn't take the squeeze, and gouging his eyes out began to feel like he couldn't breathe. Yengu killed 2 of them and told the old man to be patient. After all, he'll soon go to his friend's place too. At this point, Yengu stopped, for he saw the forces starting to come out, heading all around the building. He asked, "What's going on here?" Turning around on the guy, he saw that he was unleashing his powers outward. His power was so strong that his eyes were covered with white flowers. The elders asked, "Is this really a takeover? How is this even possible? Is this guy really that strong?" Hassan opened his mouth from so much power and began to absorb everything around him, straight to his inside. Hassan stopped after finishing the whole process and felt the power surging. Yengu started smiling again and said that it was an interesting gift. Let the boy take a chance and attack. Yengu used his strength while attacking himself and said no matter how hard the guy tries, Hassan decided to get rid of this guy and unleash all his power on him. Yengu didn't expect such power because he was sure of himself. Yengu realized that his illusion had been shattered. Hassan had captured him completely and began to abuse him himself, breaking his arms over and over again. Hassan was surprised at what was happening and realized that his power had the opposite effect on this guy. Hassan broke all of his bones and raised him in front of him, asking why he had done this to Seojin, and now he couldn't be forgiven for such a thing. Yengu asked, "What forgiveness? Does this guy really think victory is on his side? Don't let Han-sun get fooled. He didn't win. When his girlfriend was dying, he couldn't do a damn thing." Han-sun could not stand such words, and immediately punching him with all his might told him to say goodbye to the last of his life. Yengu, flying at the speed of light into the wall, asked, "Was this guy really that strong?" After breaking the floor of the wall with his body, Yang-ong fell down without moving on the living body. But Hassan didn't stop there, and immediately attacked him the moment he opened his eyes. Hassan didn't care about his life, and stamped his fist right into Yang's head. This time, too, the guy broke the entire wall and fell off the building. As he fell, Yengu even managed to insult the guy. But he didn't have much time as he immediately crashed into the ground. With his head held high, Hassan stood on the edge and regarded his corpse. And then he saw his body begin to lay out and turn into energy. Han-sun saw that kind of energy being directed at him and realized it was his. Hong-sun didn't want to accept it and was running away, saying that even Yanggu's energy was being absorbed into him. The energy started to cover him completely, but the guy said he didn't want it. The boy's body wanted to take him in on its own, and this time Hassan was powerless to resist. The senior looked at it from the sidelines and asked, "Did this guy really swallow him up too?" And at that moment some pebbles fell from the top of the building, and the elders were surprised by it. It was Tiger. He looked around the building and said it was a sick mess. The elders heard his voice and shouted that Tiger had appeared. The elders got scared and shouted that it was a tiger and it had come, and now they had to get out of here. Tiger saw that Hassan was lying on the floor and not moving. Immediately he pounced on the older man, standing up with his forepaws. Tiger did not play with them, and grabbing one by the throat told them to answer the questions posed. But Tiger only got their spit. He asked them once more who they were. The older one said nothing, and this was followed by his collision with the ground. Going after the other one, one of the older ones said they were just servants. They were ordered to find out everything about this kid. Tiger became curious after these words and asked who ordered them, but out of fright the elder said that they could not be told. The tiger grabbed him by the throat, too, and held him suspended over the abyss. The older man tried to tell him to stop, but he could not get all the words out. Tiger's patience was reaching its end and told the guy to speak up now. The elder made up his mind and said that they were working for the Night Demon Clan. Tiger immediately thought that clan. It was located in the center of the city, where it was very crowded, and on this night, this club was filled with young people. The club was so famous that all the DJs in town wanted to show off their skills. One of the girls was standing over the dance floor and said they were having fun. A man came up and said that he had found out something about the DJ. This DJ Miho, who's been gaining a lot of popularity lately. The girl asked, is he really a guy? The man said that's right. And he's also called the nine-tailed fox. The girl heard about it and immediately thought about it. It was the head of the Night Demon clan. The clan head told her men that it was time for them to move out. Immediately arriving in the room, she asked the guard, is everyone in place? The guard said confidently that everyone was. As she entered the meeting room, she said she hadn't seen everyone in a long time. They had all matured so much. At this time, the guy watching the tangle thought, where are these blazers hiding? It was a nine-tailed fox pretending to be a DJ. DJ has applied his ears for better listening rooms until he can find the right room for him. The head of the clan said it wasn't exactly according to plan, but they found him. And then one of the upstarts told them to get him here sooner rather than later. The upstart said, speaking of the tiger, surely the head would be able to subdue it? The head confidently said that it wouldn't be difficult for her. And it looks like the upstart is trying to slip away from the problems. The upstart asked, trouble? The chapter said that instead of protecting the kid, somehow the seals were broken. And because of that, that gang was able to stay in the shadows. People said the tiger was the strongest alien in history. Is she sure she can handle him? At the answer, the head began to laugh loudly. People asked her why she was laughing. The head said that she was apologizing to Matsuoka. Matsuoka said that the point was that tiger was the strongest. But that was in the past. And then they heard strange sounds outside the door, as if someone's bones were breaking. The head asked security what that was about. Security had the guy by the scruff of the neck and said the DJ was eavesdropping outside the door. DJ asked what was the matter. After all, he was just looking for the restroom. The head got angry and saw the real nature of the guy. DJ said he was exposed. DJ didn't have time to turn around before he suddenly saw the head in front of him, who pounced on him with an attack. The head sealed him to the ground and asked him where he came from. And what does he want here? DJ was very calm and told the chapter that she was good. Her beauty is not for show. The head didn't stand for it. Such disrespect in his direction. And with a kick of her feet, she slapped him so hard that the wall began to crumble. DJ stood up again with a smile on his face and said that she punched him normally, and suggested to her that she should play with an eye. The head asked him if he was looking for a fight. DJ realized he could handle them all, but decided to run away for some reason. The head ordered his men to run after him. Running away, DJ could even look back, but also saw that he was being chased and now he would soon need to act. DJ saw that there was a glass wall in front of him, and with all his might he jumped through it, shattering everything around him. The others stayed on the other side and yelled that the guy was a freaking rat. DJ realized he could do it and landed on the ground. Turning back, he smiled back, but then from the side he saw the clan leader, already here and about to launch an attack. DJ realized that he would need to dodge such a stealthy attack, and immediately set about doing so. From each of her attacks, he could dodge and even did it very nicely. While the people of the chapter watched from a skyscraper, DJ decided to show off in front of her, and immediately dodging the attack, he did a backflip. Landing on his feet, DJ said it was his turn, and immediately used his fire powers. The head, seeing such a strong stream of fire, was unable to react, and simply covered her face with her hands. The head wasn't made of dough either, and endured all the pain. DJ was surprised and said she withstood a direct hit. The head, smiling through the force, said this fire. So the guy said right, turned out to be a nine-tailed fox? At this time, a large car arrived near the clubhouse and the man inside it asked the captain. The girl, while tying her hair, said they would just go and say hello. It was the captain of the recon squad. Hasten had a very scary dream, which was previously real. Immediately, he abruptly got up screaming about the death of her friend Yoon. The tiger lying next to him told him to sleep some more, for it was still morning. Hassan asked Tiger if he was the one who had brought him here. Tigray sat on the windowsill and looked at the dawn and said that was right. Hassan got curious and asked about Yengun and the others, what kind of creatures were they? But he had seen unbelievable things since he was a child. But his mother said they were friends not to be feared. Tiger asked surprised, his mother? Hassan said the viper, Yengu, and the trio. After all, Tigray knows who they are, and why were they looking for him? Tiger asked the boy where his mother was now. Hassan said disappointedly that she had already died. Hassan remembered the necklace she had given him. He asked Tigray if he knew anything about it, didn't he? She had told him before to keep it on, that he had a spirit protector in him. Tiger took it in his hands and realized something. Tiger made up his mind and told the boy that it looked like he would have to meet his mother. And then Hassan was surprised by these words. Hassan asked him what he was talking about. That night, the clan head was saying that she'd found out some guy was sniffing around. Who knew he was so handsome? DJ smiled at those words and thanked her, but he realized that now was not the time to show his abilities because people could see him. But they've already seen that this guy just shot fire. They need to call the police immediately. DJ pulled the head's gaze away, and after waiting for the right moment, abruptly fled the scene. The head turned around and saw he was gone and said he was a very slippery bastard. She got really angry too, and immediately ran after him to keep him from getting away. Her strength was so great that she almost overturned the car. As she flew up into the air, she saw something and assumed it was fire, and then DJ launched his fire attack. A beam of fire pierced through the head of the clan, and the bright light of the beam headed towards the atmosphere. But the head realized that she had enough strength to resist this boy. She managed to dodge his attack, and then grabbed him by the neck, smiling right into his face. DJ, seeing that he couldn't answer her, realized that she had gotten a lot faster and there was no way to keep up with her. The head had little to do. She was able to strike so hard right at DJ with such tremendous force. DJ felt that this was over the top, and immediately did a backflip so as not to do too much damage to himself. The head of the clan couldn't leave him so easily, and immediately went to attack. And that's when DJ realized they were in trouble. Dealing so much damage in a moment, the entire building shook, and beams of light were sent throughout the city. A girl came to the scene. She was the captain of the recon team. She ordered her men to evacuate everyone out of here. She sensed something and immediately looked up at the building where the battle between the clan head and DJ was going on upstairs. DJ was badly injured and leaned against the wall. Grabbing his head, he said his ears were still ringing. The head told DJ that he was the second person to survive a blow to the head and remain in creation. Did DJ really ask? He would like to see the first person. The head said he wasn't a man he'd be lucky enough to meet, and then DJ used his fire hands and covered his face. The clan leader asked, "Is he trying to escape again?" DJ realized he had to do something, and immediately took to the sky using his fire. DJ started to turn into a fox, and was very happy about it. While the head was very frightened, DJ was actually very strong, and showed his full power by using the flames of fire. The clan head realized that she couldn't escape such fire, and decided to take everything on her body. Such a shelf of flame was visible even from across town, for it covered the entire building. The head fell to her knees with helplessness, and couldn't believe she'd lost to the kid this time. Head asked the guy, "How long has he been in the human world?" DJ said he had no idea, he had already lost count. The head wondered what the guy's purpose was in the human world. DJ said he needed to find out something. The head, hearing these words, improved, and said with a loud laugh that the guy wouldn't wait for it. But then the police got to the building. The squad leader told them to put their hands behind their heads, and no sudden movements. The clan head asked the guy if he had been their doormat for long. DJ told her who she was holding, a nine-tailed fox. The clan head said that next time she wouldn't let him go so easily. The squad leader told her men to capture her. The clan head didn't give up on them so easily, and jumped out of the building, right into the center of the city, where a lot of people were gathered. The captain asked, "What was that even about? Is she even a human being?" DJ approached her and asked if she wanted to know about her, but then all the commander's men pointed their guns right at the guy. DJ held out his hands and told them to chain him up. The commander's man reported that the guy's name is Nine-Tailed Fox. His date of birth is October 4th, 1971. The commander asked if he was already 50 years old. The commander told him not to slow down. It's a fake identity. Let's keep looking for information. And this guy also DJs at the Black Dragon Club. The commander said it doesn't matter. The DJ asked them if they were filming him, and suggested changing the angle because his left side was working. The commander slapped the table and said, "Closer to the point. And why did she and John Gu get into a scuffle? Do they know each other?" DJ asked, "Is that the only thing they are concerned about? Not the flame shots? Not jumping to the 5th floor? That doesn't bother them at all?" The commander said she was worried, But now she needed to figure out what he wanted from them. DJ said she lives up to her title of detective. Commander asked the nine-tailed fox what he really is. The DJ raised his hand and asked, "Are they interested?" And then he turned on all the lights and said he was a fox with 9 tails. That means he has the 9 tails of the tribe. So he decided to show them. DJ said they need to accept the fact that humans are not the only intelligent beings. And then some people in town grabbed one guy. They asked him, is he totally stupid or what? But the boy bowed down and asked them to forgive him. The older villain said he's fine with the guy moving in, it's not a problem. Just have him warn him about it next time. They asked the guy had he found the money yet? But then the guy saw someone standing over the house and pointed his finger. The villains looked at this guy and didn't understand what he wanted from them. They asked him, what's he looking at? The stranger took his weapon in his hands and said nothing to them. One of the villains asked what kind of stick he had, and they started laughing out loud. The stranger was speechless and just stared at them intently. The villains asked him what he would do with her, or would he want to get it? The villains all started laughing at him, because they saw that he began to tremble. The stranger heard these words and immediately punched one of the villains. No one expected this turn of events, and only saw their partner take off. The stranger told them to flee if they had any desire to live. Immediately the villains were all frightened at such words, and at what they saw. The commander asked the DJ, and they are supposed to believe this nonsense? DJ said for them to just realize that the mythical creatures from the legends are strangers from other worlds who have come to Earth. The commander asked him, like Superman, did you come from Krypton? Fox laughed and said sort of, ranging from a fearless god of war to a goddess of beauty whose body mesmerized anyone. They all come from different worlds, but each one of them has entered and started to live among people. The commander said that suppose she believed him, she would be frank with him, though he probably guessed it himself. They are national intelligence agents investigating the Night Demon clan. But then one of his men objected, and Du Young is the head of that clan, and they know she's no ordinary person. Fox said she's also an outsider from another world. Did the commander ask the guy what she could do? Against a gun, for example? Lee said she would catch a bullet. He prefers to dodge, though, but it's also not her real name. Everyone calls her the Gobbler. That's what they really call her. At that time, the head of the clan came to someone for a meeting, and they called her a tear gutter and told her to come on in. The ringleader asked her if she could have a drink. He said there seemed to be some trouble at the club. The jerk said it wasn't a big deal. The ringleader told Snatchbite that she was wounded, and thanked her for her work. Jerk asked the ringleader if he was going to ask anything about him. The ringleader said there was no need for that. The ringleader said this guy's only purpose was to get the government's attention. He's not afraid of the common man. The ringleader told her they wouldn't have any subordinates left if they killed them all. So she gets a tip about an interesting guy. He tells her to take him on. Drygelot asked, another outsider? The ringleader said that was it. But don't let her go there personally. She needs to lay low. Going off in different directions to the ringleader, someone said he had a loyal subordinate. The leader said that's right, it's a valuable asset, and reliable as a tank. The stranger said she'd be looking forward to it. The ringleader said he would take her with him to their meeting. He planned to tell her anyway. The stranger agreed and said he'd be ready. After a while, the villains came again to the same neighborhood, and seeing the guy who beat them up, they asked him, does he see something? One of them said that this bum just didn't have the money for a haircut. At that time, the guy was lighting his cigarette and didn't pay any attention to them. It wasn't long before they told the guy they were going to cut him into pieces, and called him a fucking bastard. The guy looked at them and asked what they were expecting. The villains did not expect such a turn and were surprised. The guy said that if that's the way it was going, he'd start by himself. So he took his weapon and went into the circle and started beating them all up. The villain's teeth flew, and everyone couldn't even resist him because he was so fast. He was no ordinary man, applying his powers to his weapons, flames covering him. This kind of power is so great that these guys have never been caught in such hands. Their weapons were ineffective in this fight. The guy didn't spare any of them, and smashed one after another as if it was the last time in his life. One of the villains called him a name and immediately came at him with a knife. But the guy didn't see him from behind and took it on his body, stabbing the knife into the guy's body. No one expected it to break in his hands. He even turned pale from it. The guy turned to him and immediately punched him in the head with his fist. The blood didn't wait long and came right out of his face. The villains were all defeated and leaned against the wall that stood closest to them. The boy looked at him for a long time and said nothing. The guy looked at him and showed all his power by using his eye. The villain immediately shouted that he was a monster. The guy raised his weapon above his head and immediately swung it at him, leaving them no life to survive. As he sat on top of one of them, he immediately lit a cigarette and said that he had a lot of fun. But then Dryjaglot came to him and was surprised at what she saw. She said that rumors about him were spreading like wildfire. The guy said she was just like him. Let him attack right away before he did it himself. Jerk said for him to put his weapon down, she was here to talk. 2 days later, Hassan was riding a train somewhere, and looking out the window he was thinking about something. Immediately he remembered Tiger saying he would have to meet his mother. Tiger said that 5,000 years ago he was sealed inside that necklace. Or rather, he sealed himself inside it. Further waking up in the impenetrable darkness, he had been in unconsciousness for ages. And now he needed to find out what had happened in his absence. And he also needs to understand why he's holding that necklace. After all, he won't rest until these questions are answered. Seriously asked a surprised Hassan. After all, he already looks pretty calm. Can Tiger explain something? What was that power? Well, the one he used in the fight with Yengun. After all, he can't repeat it no matter how hard he tries. Tiger said he didn't know. But the guy's definitely human, but he's not easy. But maybe it has something to do with how he got hold of the necklace? Hassan said maybe he's an outsider too. Tiger said it couldn't be. How could there be such a weakling among the outsiders? Tiger said they can recognize their own kind. He could sense them if they came close. And then he stood up abruptly, staring fixedly at one point. He didn't attack him immediately. He just waited for the stranger to approach them on his own. But only he saw the shadow of its existence. The stranger took a couple steps toward the boys, and Tiger immediately put his abilities to use. This was the guy who took out the group of baddies on the street. Tiger told Hassan to move toward the exit. Hassan didn't understand at first and asked, "Right now?" The guy just smoked his cigarette and smiled. But Tiger told him to run away. Tiger realized that if they started here, they'd hit the guy behind him. But the guy just stood there smoking. Tiger picked it up and realized that his best solution was to get the hell out of here and not put him in danger. But then he tried to run away with Hassan and used his powers to do so. Hassan saw the stranger attacking and shouted for Tiger to dodge. The tiger left the guy aside and showed his full nature. He managed to dodge the attack and didn't hit the guy. Tiger asked him, "Is he from the demon clan again?" The guy said nothing and tried to lift his mask. Tiger gathered all his strength in his fist and immediately kicked him in the body with all his might. And finally kicked him. The tiger stood over him like a father, and the boy couldn't do anything to him. He just held on to his weapon. The guy losing blood from his body said he didn't recall his face. Tiger said he's new here. You could consider him new. The guy immediately jumped up sharply, and with his weapon attack said for the newcomer to take his gift. Tiger saw that it was an attack coming at Hassan and immediately blocked it with his body and told him to dodge. The force was so great that Tiger felt it. But the guy immediately attacked again. Tiger couldn't do anything yet. Hassan is right next to him and had to get to his body. They managed to get off the train with these attacks. The tiger told the guy that he had lost his fear. He's attacking a common man. The guy told Tiger that this kid's words didn't concern him. Tiger was surprised and asked why that was. Dryjacket was resting herself over the task of her house and saying that the weather was perfect today. And then his men came and told her they had a question. Who is this homeless man? The head of the clan told Fred that he was an American, after all. Did he ever read Korean fairy tales? Fred said, except about Hungbu and Nalbu. And he's from the moment where the older one gets beaten up for greed, said the head. Fred was surprised and said that it really wasn't that simple. The head got up from his chair and said that it was exactly like that. They call him the goblin. And at that time Tiger felt everything on his body. The blows of the goblin. With each attack, the goblin got closer and closer to him. Tiger was not ready to lose to him either, and fought to the last. Tiger told the goblin that he was beginning to annoy him, and then Tiger decided that it was time to act and said that the jokes were over. The tiger pulled his image outward and showed who he really was, The claws on his hands were so sharp they could tear anyone apart. The tiger didn't hesitate and immediately applied a hunger mist strike. The goblin was at this moment very surprised to see his image. Goblin wasn't scared and called the guy a bastard and launched his attack. But Tiger noticed this and changed the angle of his attack. Goblin told Tiger that he was underestimating him, but Tiger was so fast that he dodged his attacks. The tiger attacked from behind and said that he was applying 2 strikes at once. This is the fury of fire. Such an attack was several meters long, and Goblin was unable to dodge and took on his body. Tiger saw that Goblin had fallen to the ground and was not moving. He smiled broadly and said he had handled him very well. Hassan saw that Tiger was in the path of the train and yelled to move aside. But he didn't have time to do that and the train hit him. When he hit the windshield of the train, he realized that it was humiliating. The driver of the train at that moment almost shit his pants at what he saw. Hassan advanced towards the train and waited for Tiger. But at that moment Goblin came and said that this was the most humiliating victory of his life, and ordered Hassan to go after him. Goblin looked at the boy intently and did not take his eyes off him. He remembered being shown the picture and told to bring him to them. The jerk-off said it was like that, and immediately she began to look around the houses and saw that all the people were awake and looking out the window. Goblin asked her, "Is this guy an outsider?" Goblin said no, but one of the strongest is guarding him. This is not going to be an easy case. Besides, a baby could be much more dangerous than a tiger. Goblin thrust his hands into the kid's shoulder and asked, "Is this dead kid much more dangerous?" Hassan immediately cried out in pain as his claws dug deeper into his body and his strength was applied. Hassan stood still for a long time. Goblin raised his hand and immediately punched the boy. He didn't resist and immediately collapsed to the ground. Hassan's face was covered in blood, and a puddle was collecting under his feet. Goblin asked, "Does he know how to hide his powers?" Hassan immediately became angry and sank his teeth right into his hand, not missing this opportunity. Goblin didn't even scream after that, and easily punched the guy once more that he flew back a few meters. Hassan survived this blow, and seeing that the villain was far away decided to run away. But Goblin looked at this, and immediately ran with more speed, standing right next to him. Goblin didn't waste any time, and immediately knocked him out with a single blow. He asked the boy, did he have the nerve to run away? After all, he had no time for games. Goblin immediately started beating this guy with his weapon. Hassan couldn't do anything and just covered his face with his hands. At this time, the tiger ran back at such a fast speed that even the train could not catch up with him. Goblin brought the boy to his senses and simply dragged him like his prey. Hassan just stayed still and held on to his sore arm. Hassan asked Goblin why they were all attacking him. What had he really done to them? Hassan cried in these moments of anguish that he had managed to discover his abilities and improve to such great power as he had not seen. Goblin turned his head and saw some light coming from this guy and was surprised. Hassan didn't stop and continued to improve. Tapestry simply didn't understand what was happening. How was this possible? Hassan broke free of his grip and immediately went on the attack, and directed that energy right at him. Tiger felt it and realized that this energy was familiar to him. Was it another stranger? But he realized it was something else. The tiger was running at a great speed, and once more he thought and suggested that it might be Hassan. At this time, Goblin simply hadn't seen such a power in his life, and was very frightened by such a thing. After all, he didn't understand what this kind of power was. Hassan was so strong that he simply took control of Goblin's entire body, and was breaking every bone in his body. Breaking it completely, and kneeling down on his knees, Hassan wouldn't let him go, and slowly devoured his full energy. Once in the subconscious world, Goblin said he wanted to atone for his sins. To those who were missing limbs, to those who have been wronged, to all those who have to live in the shadows. Is this really how he's going to die? Goblin opened his eyes and saw a train coming at him, and immediately managed to step aside and save his life. And that's when Tiger came to him. He was so angry he was ready to tear Goblin to pieces. They looked at each other from both sides for a long time. Goblin was very scared, and didn't know what he should do next. Tiger asked Goblin, does he have a last wish? And how dare he hurt this guy? Two people were headed for the lab on the passageway. and upon entering they were met by a boy and greeted by the great serpent. Snake said he could tell by the boy's grin that the results were good. The boy laughed and asked, "Is it really that obvious? Ms. Teargut, this is their first time meeting, isn't it? His name is Hua Tao." When she heard his name, she immediately wondered if it was the healing god Hua Tao. "You wouldn't know it by looking at him." Hua led them to the computer and told them that some difficulties had arisen. First, they collected a blood sample from the tiger's blood vessel and inject the highlighted DNA into the test subjects for observation. Snake asked, "And what happened next?" Hua laughed and said that the result was beyond their expectations. "Let him see for himself. Regeneration have been tested. Absolutely all indicators have improved." Snake was pleased and said that was what they needed. Hua said there were still some problems. After a while, the subject's physical performance decreases, and the effectiveness of repeated administration of the drug decreases. After 24 hours, they return to their original state. It's the special pathogenesis that's secreted into the young man's body. And to improve the pattern, the boy needs here, said Snakes. Hua said that's exactly what it is. Snakes asked what's wrong with this test subject. Hua said the body is rejecting the drug, but is extremely unstable right now. Snakes told Hua to wake him up. He wants to say hello to him. Hua said he was honestly surprised. Who would have thought that a mere human would have such an ability? In 2,000 years of research, I've never seen such a thing. Could it be that the heavens were mocking him like this? The serpent smiled and said no one knows. This could be a warning to them. After applying all the techniques, the subject woke up and opened his evil eyes. The serpent knew him and said they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Snake is a great bloody asshole. Snake asked, his foul mouth never got better? The subject was very angry and immediately broke the vessel and attacked, saying that the serpent thought he was a god. But then Dridgelot entered the battle and used her strength, immediately hitting the subject with her foot. Dridgelot was so strong that she sealed the subject into the wall, but he wouldn't give up and stood up. The serpent said he was a fool. After all, they're all trapped in the eternal abyss. He's just trying to find a way out. The serpent took off his gloves and, showing his strength, asked, "Is this such a terrible target?" Dridgelot saw that the serpent was attacking right at the subject and stepped aside. And the man was just suffering from so much pain. Dridgelot was surprised from such a powerful force. But then she looked at her test subject, was more frightened, for he had been entirely killed by the fire. The serpent approached the test subject and said that he was definitely not a god, but one who would challenge him. The boys were already in the boat for the morning and were on their way for the trip. The tiger waved his arms and shouted at the birds to stop eating his crunchies. The tiger lost his temper, for the birds just kept up with him. And then he decided to unleash his claws and shouted that he was going to kill them. The birds were not afraid of this, and again attacked him and stole his food. The tiger could not keep his balance and fell into the water. Hassan didn't speak to him for a long time, and thought when Tiger asked him, Hassan said he felt like he had a place to go back to. At this time, Goblin was bleeding and trying to reach his home. When he reached the ladders, he just fell down in front of them. People saw him and immediately ran to his aid. There was a mess in the lab which Snakes handled. Dry Jacket got a call and she said she understood. Dridgelot relayed to Snake after the conversation that the goblin had failed, and suggested to the Lord that she go after them personally. The serpent clearly said no, for he decided to go on his own. It's actually ironic. He's been walking this earth for many thousands of years, but this is the first time he's ever been so anxious. His heart is fluttering, Dridgelot, so he decided to go himself. Upon arriving at the point, the tiger told the boy that no one had lived here for a long time. Hassan said the island of the White Flower. He lived here until he was 7 years old, but he remembers almost nothing about it. It is different from how he remembers it. Did the tiger ask him where they were going? Or had the guy forgotten that too? Hassan told him not to talk nonsense. He grew up here, let him follow him. And then Chaos stopped and thought, what is wrong here? His memories are different. He holds his head up and thinks, what happened here? He couldn't put his thoughts together. Stepping into nowhere, Hassan remembered that this was the road they should take. He and his friends used to play here, and his mother had called him from here. When he saw the house on the hill, he said the estate had burned down. It shouldn't be here. Tiger thought of the burned house and felt that something was wrong, too. A simple fire couldn't do that. It's the work of an alien. Turning back around, he began to take a closer look at the area and saw that the tomb of the white flower goddess was standing behind him. Tiger asked the boy who his mother was. Hassan said she was a shaman. She was known all over the area, even outside the island. Then why is this place abandoned? Hassan said that there must have been evil rumors about the place after she died, as if it were a punishment for disobeying the heavens. The tiger apologized and asked him how she had died. Hassan took his head and said that was the point. He doesn't remember anything specific, just the idea that she died of the disease. Hassan began to see something unknown to him. He asked, "What is this memory?" Hassan felt his head begin to split. But who was that in front of his house? Tiger said loudly for someone to stop following them. Just then a man came out from behind a tree and said he knew it. He knew this guy wasn't easy. So easy to spot him. Tiger said it would be strange if he didn't find him. Immediately the man vanished before their eyes. The man said he could praise their courage. Are they really treasure hunters? But who would have thought that on a deserted island he would meet a stranger? Tiger asked him why he was standing with his back to them. The man said that the essence of a man is his back. In the back, thought Hassan. And then he saw something from an old memory, and a face he'd seen somewhere too. Hassan said he thought he'd heard that before. Had he looked after him before? The tiger asked the old man who he was. The man smiled and said to the guy, "Does he really want to find out?" The man showed all his strength and told Tiger to beat the answer out of him. If, of course, the sucker could do it. Tiger said that, if anything, he looked young. But the old man could guess that he was older than he was. The man said to let the god of war of the Eastern Sea show him his power, and immediately attacked the tiger. But Tiger was faster than him and dodged his attack. The old man said it was predictable. He launched his attack again. Tiger managed to dodge and said that the old man was too slow. After conducting several attacks, the old man was already very angry that he couldn't hit this guy. The tiger just taunted him, and then at the appropriate moment made an attack from the back, and left his marks. The old man told Tiger that once upon a time he really was the strongest, but at least he still has his agility. He lacks strength. The tiger stared at him and asked if he would answer for the words he said. And immediately he began to attack with his claws, and cut the man to pieces. The old man told the guy that he could anticipate all his attacks. "It's just a tickle for him." Tiger asked him, "Is he sure he's okay?" The old man started laughing loudly, and in a moment just collapsed to the ground. Tiger asked him, now would he tell them who he was? The old man didn't move for a while, and then Tiger came closer to him, and the old man let his fist attack at him. This attack was so strong and unpredictable that Tiger had no time to react and flew into the air. The old man asked the boy if he wanted to hear his story. Now he's gonna tell him his story. Tiger grabbed his chin and said that was interesting stuff. Immediately he shouted at the old man to get serious. The tiger saw that he wasn't paying attention to him and immediately swooped down on him with his claws to teach him a lesson. The old man sensed this and immediately used his abilities, pulling out a few of his secret abilities. The tiger stepped aside, because those wooden things were getting to him, and then a wood appeared right under him and attacked. The old man told him not to be afraid, for here he is always ready for him. That's his totem rule. Hassan asked him, did he summon totems? The old man turned angrily and said loudly to the guy, and what did he think he was sitting on? Isn't it obvious? He summoned 30 pieces. Hassan called the old man Uncle Totem and asked, haven't they met before? Maybe he knows his mother? The old man took Hassan by the head and said that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. He had waited so long for him here. The old man led them into the shelter and said that he would now begin with a greeting. Let the boys come through. Going deep into the cliff, the old man showed his hand and said his mother is here. Let him greet his mother. Hassan was surprised to see his mother's portrait. So the old man decided to bring them to the totem's house. The old man started laughing loudly and told them to settle down. Tiger asked him why he had to put on this concert. Hassan treated the old man for the cuts that Tiger had inflicted. The old man told the lad that he had started it himself, too. But would he have known the excitement he had? The old man turned back and looked at Hassan and saw that he had grown up. For 10 years he had no peace. It was like being surrounded by an impenetrable darkness, unable to leave the island. But now there's no trace of her. Hassan said to ask the old man to tell him how his mother died. The old man asked him what he remembered. Hassan said only small snippets. How they took him away, a terrible downpour, lightning striking the house, and the silhouette of a man watching. Starkey decided that he would follow his fate and tell all. The old man relented and told the guy to listen carefully. The old man asked someone if he could stop him. The woman said that the man is going to become a dragon and is capable of doing so. She is not sure he will win, and in a situation like this, he can't protect Hassan. Let the old man put aside the little things and think about the important things. The old man asked, what small things? The woman said that countless generations have guarded the necklace. It is the most important. But then little Hassan came and greeted everyone. The woman told Hassan that she had a present for him. Little Hassan smiled and told his mother to give it to him. The woman showed the pendant and said it was special, one that would protect him in times of need. But he must not take it off. Is there something else for him? The old man asked the girl, could they wake him up? The woman said the tiger would be released sooner or later. But it's not her destiny. So let Uncle do as he's told. It's also a hunch, but a child can awaken it. It is only a matter of time and desire. Hassan asked who was going to be the dragon. His uncle told him it was his mother's enemy. And his name was Emogi. A guy was running down the alleys from the villains and yelling for them to leave him alone. It was Fox. He asked the guy why he was running away. He just wanted to talk to him. This guy turned out to be a stranger and yelled for Fox to stay away from him. Fox asked him if he'd seen the tiger's awakening. Did he happen to know where he was? In ancient times, the tiger and bear clans fought over this land. The captain said that this myth is still known. Lise said she wasn't being completely truthful. Some details were kept from the humans. This is the instigator of the war. The head of the tiger clan is the god of war of the East Sea. The captain said that the tiger clan lost the war. Fox said that he disappeared at a crucial moment. Thanks to that, the bear clan had a chance. Does he mean he's going to idiot this particular tiger? The fox said that was correct. The night demon clan broke the seal and wants to use its power. The captain said then they need to stop them immediately. Fox said it was not a fact that the tiger would be on their side. He might join the night demons. The captain became more and more curious and asked what would happen then. The fox showed his powers and said he would kill him. The captain called him a fool and told him to stop flaming out so suddenly. Whereas on the island, Tiger said he'd been waiting 5,000 years for this battle. And then he snapped at the bear totem. At this time, Hassan was also practicing, and at one point got distracted by Tiger. Uncle flushed him with water and told him to stay focused. Uncle smiled and decided to joke that there were no waterfalls on the island and that would do him just fine. Uncle told Hassan he knows he has special powers, but even good weapons need sharpening. Hassan said he heard everything and will try really hard to do it. His uncle told him he needed a run first. On the first day of training, Hassan didn't shovel out and stupidly fell over from helplessness. The first week of training they started practicing hard. His uncle told him that now they would be practicing strength training. Rest after 100 reps. After 2 weeks of training, the guys had improved their strength and decided to all sit down to eat together. Here it was, a month of training had already passed. Uncle was still practicing, and the boys were sitting asleep on the rocks. Hassan retreated to a secluded spot and realized he needed to master the abilities he had absorbed and to use at any time, and then he went into his subconscious. And seeing the memory of Seo, he told himself to calm down. He began to put a new spin on things and said he had to always keep calm. Entering the room with memories, Hassan said that this stranger was an ordinary person. That's all the bear clan can do, crumbled to ashes. And then he saw himself running to his mother with screams and tears in his eyes. So Hassan found the very stream he needed. And in its place there was an explosion. Tiger saw it and did not understand what had happened. They caught Hassan and held him tightly. Tiger asked what was wrong with him. Uncle said that one of the captured souls rebelled when he used the power. Is it the dead bastards affecting his mind? Uncle didn't understand it himself, but said it looked like it. Uncle realized that such a thing could not be a part of Hassan. What a monster he had absorbed. And then Hassan snapped and attacked Tiger. Tiger dodged the attack and said that he might be able to absorb a couple psychers. But where did he get that kind of power from? The tiger managed to grab his hands and was telling the old man to calm him down somehow. He has strange eyes. The old man asked Tiger what he said about the eyes. He looked at them himself and said they were the eyes of the stranger. The old man realized that Hassan had the upper hand on him. If Hassan didn't wake up, Tiger tried to resist and asked what was wrong with the bastard. Where did an ordinary man get that kind of power? The old man told Tiger that he probably already knew about it. A secret heavenly technique that the god endowed the Bear Clan goddess with. Really, it's the ability to absorb and utilize the abilities of dead strangers. It markedly increases strength. Tiger understood everything and said that means Hassan is the last successor of the Bear Clan. Uncle said that was right. Uncle said to help him wake up while he was still capable of it. Tiger said through anguish that he would get him down sooner. The tiger decided to use his strength against him too. And at the appropriate moment, he too grabbed him by the neck. Uncle asked Hassan if he could hear. Let him not dare to lose to the freak inside. Remember the real you. He can do it, he can do anything. Hassan sank back into his memories and saw who had gotten his mother killed. His mother apologized to him and told him that sometimes they can't choose the path their lives will take. Surely he would curse her every time he had to face his hard lot. Even so, she can't change fate. Hassan heard all these words and immediately fell on her lap with tears in his eyes and cried out to his mother. Hassan began to change completely and there was an explosion. Uncle told Tiger to watch. It was this power that the Bear Clan had kept for thousands of years. Someone broke into Totem's house while everyone was sleeping. It was a girl with powers. She saw that everything was going according to plan. She walked up to Tiger and used magic to tell him that he would never wake up again. But it wasn't that simple. Suddenly someone broke the wall. At that moment, the girl did not expect such a thing and froze. The big man smiled and said he had found them. The girl called him an idiot and said she told him to work stealthily. The girl started to get indignant and said that the man was not listening to him at all. But then the uncle got up shouting and asked who attacked, what happened, and who turned off the light. Tiger used his powers and said he had such a nice dream. Uncle kept asking where those bastards were hiding. The tiger said they would pay for interrupting his rest. He immediately started attacking them. At this time, Hassan was training with a log and realized that he was the heir to the Bear Clan. And because of that, everyone is hunting him. But suddenly he felt that he was not alone in the forest. He turned around and saw a stranger. The guy said he had a good shot. Turns out this guy's not the only one here. And from behind, an unknown voice said that Hassan was practicing until the middle of the night. Where did he get that kind of hard work? The guy said that's right, because Hassan is just a tiger's vessel, clearly everything. And at that moment, the other guy started laughing loudly at him. The guy pulled out his claws and asked, was it really him? I'd have to test the strength. And immediately pounced on him. The other guy said they had come for him. Hassan fell to his knees and didn't understand what was even happening. But then the first guy intervened and said that the boss told them to leave the guy to him. Hassan realized that this was the first time he had seen them. Hassan was confused and wanted to try a new power. The guy told Hassan that it was commanded to take him alive. At this time, there was a war going on in the Totem's house. An old man was fighting a man and said force on force. How long he had waited for this. And then the old man decided to summon his totem and immediately used it to punch the man. Tiger didn't stand idly by either and asked the girl attacking, did she happen to forget about him? But then the girl used something and started to change. Tiger immediately realized that it was regeneration. The girl asked Tiger, is he surprised? Her ability is as good as her beauty. So he is a strong man. Can he defeat her? Tiger asked her, where is Hassan? Are they from the Night Demon clan? The girl told the guy to keep them out of the garbage. They're an assassination squad under his personal command. Tiger thought, looking around. A girl with powerful regeneration and an impenetrable thug. Perfect abilities to hold them off. But then Hassan dodged his attack and realized that he could handle them. But the boy kept attacking and laughing with pleasure. The guy launched several attacks and hit Hassan. But in the moment he opened his phone and started taking pictures. Hassan saw that this guy had incredible strength and agility, fast, and his punches were unpredictable. But if he could catch him. But then a third guy came in and told them to stop and let the kid try his knives. Let him take a break. The third guy said it had been so long since he had felt another man's blood. Hassan saw the knives and thought that if he did everything right, he might be able to overpower him. And then in the moment of the attack, Hasan stood still and realized that this was the moment of hypnosis he had absorbed from Yongu. The third guy didn't understand what happened and asked, "What happened? Why the fuck did this happen?" The first guy asked him if he was okay, what was wrong with him, and then Hasan began to control his body and launched an attack of his own. The third guy didn't expect this, that he could kill his co-commander. He kept asking, "What's going on?" Hasan killed one of them and began to absorb its energy. He realized that with his new ability, he wouldn't be able to take him out right away, and then the guy immediately attacked him, and Hasan saw that attack and was able to dodge it. He was very happy that he had succeeded. Hasan saw everything and repeated that he must initially reflect and hit with all his might. And in the moment he felt victory. Hasan managed to attack, and even hit the guy, causing him to fall back a few meters. He also felt that it was easier for him to move. He stood up and told the next one to attack. The guy didn't realize what was going on, and how this guy absorbed his power was just delusional. Where does man get this ability? Wouldn't he become the strongest like that? The other guy said this brat absorbed and used it. That's why Emogi-san needs him. The guy said the guy couldn't warn him before. The guy said he just found out about it. The third guy attacked Hasan and said he thought he'd had enough. He's gonna chop him into pieces. There was still a fight going on in the room, and Tiger was trying to kill this girl because his life and his boyfriend's depends on it. The old man was not lagging behind either, and fought to his last breath. After all, this man was very tough. The old man saw that the man was not falling from his blows and decided to use Hasami's abilities. The girl realized that she had miscalculated. The old man appeared to be a stranger, too. It had to be only a tiger. The girl thought about it and decided it was time for a special attack. And the man didn't stay away either, and when he attacked, he told them all to die. The girl took control of the man and said the old man would die first, and then Tiger after him. At this time, Hasan kept fighting this guy, and he managed to dodge every attack from him. And then Hasan got sick of it, so he decided to attack the guy himself. And he did a lot of damage to this guy. The boy didn't take any chances and managed to dodge. But Hasan was smarter and chose the right moment to attack. And it was successful. The guy lay on the ground and said that it was a shame for him. Hasan started to smile loudly and realized that he didn't have the strength to use his abilities. And then Hasan squatted down and immediately saw the guy stand up. The guy told Hasan he was already tired. "Can't a man keep up this pace?" The guy showed his eyes and said that it was now his turn to deal damage to him for all his past attacks. The boy raised his fiery claws and asked Hasan, did he enjoy beating him up? Would they have fun? Now let him have it. And then Chaosan put up his hands and the guy slashed his skin, making a huge amount of blood come out. He didn't understand why he was so fast, and then Hasan decided to attack as well. Just as suddenly, the guy made an attack from behind and said that he was already behind his back. The guy applied his chain abilities and said it was the guy's turn to chain the guy up. The guy tied up Hasan and immobilized him. Putting his claws in front of his face, he asked if he liked it. Does he want his ability? He wondered where the power would go if he cut him to pieces. The other guy came up and told his friend to stop, because they needed Hasan alive. The third guy asked why Emogi needed this guy. The second guy told him to watch his mouth. Otherwise he'll end up in the grave. The third guy laughed and asked the big guy, is he the smartest? And immediately released several blades outwards. At this time a battle was going on in Totem's house, and the boys were fighting at the loss of their blood. The thug turned his hands into big weapons and started destroying everything. Tiger picked a good moment and told the bully that he was underestimating him, and immediately attacked him. The old man did not distinguish himself either, and struck the bulky man with such force that he collapsed to the ground. The girl said the bully is a useless idiot. Tell him to get up immediately. Tiger told the girl that they wanted to test her regeneration with her head blown off. And I wonder if it will grow back? The third guy didn't tolerate such disrespect in his direction, and said he was a self-righteous jerk. The other guy said he was crazy and dared to interfere. He's a pure idiot who forgot that his toothpicks are nothing against him. The second guy dodged his attack. And the third guy picked up the moment to release his knives and asked him if he was sure. The guy put up a defense and said he didn't even feel it. They fought each other because arrogance spoils everything. The guy told him he had no chance. The guy unleashed his huge and powerful attack from the ground and hit right at this upstart. He couldn't help himself and got to his feet. The guy told him to think of it as a reward for his work. As he walked away, he thought, why is he still alive? But then he stopped and realized he couldn't move. Wolverine stood up and said that it was a special poison that Professor Hua had given. He didn't take it for nothing. The guy said that Wolverine was a bastard, but he paid no attention to him and walked slowly toward Hassan. Wolverine said he'd better keep the kid still or it'll be worse. He'll cut his tendons so he can't move his arms. Wolverine complied and cut his tendons, grabbing him and telling him he would be his new toy. Such agony didn't last long, as suddenly a hand appeared from behind him and cut Wolverine into pieces. At that time, a lot of blood was spilled in the totem's house. Tiger said that they had attacked them in the middle of the night and made such a mess. And then Tiger asked the old man, where is Hassan? The old man said that it was about time. The boy noticed it, of course. The old man said he thought the guy was okay, but it would be better to find him first. And then the soul of the guys killed by the boys began to fade away, and the old man realized that it was Hassan absorbing him. Tiger also said that their souls were flying to him. The old man was surprised that the guy could absorb strangers at such a distance. What a potential he had. Wolverine didn't understand how this happened. After all, the poison should have spread throughout his body. The guy laughed and said that poisons are nothing to him. He is different from ordinary strangers. The guy grabbed his head and told him that everyone who saw him like that was already in the grave. And now it was his turn. Hassan kept absorbing other people's souls and was getting stronger and stronger. The guy was surprised that this kid absorbed his ability at once. But even then he saw that wasn't the end of it. Everyone's abilities were coming to his body. The boy asked, what is it? Hassan began to improve and grow stronger, his eyes turning a yellow color. And the boy saw that he was still absorbing strength. And then the boy remembered that those two were already dead. Hassan felt his body recovering. Looking at his body, he saw that he had taken iron arms to himself. The boy said that it looked like the kid wasn't going to go easy on him. Hassan didn't hesitate and immediately started attacking with iron hands. But the guy didn't give up so easily either. The boys tried to run faster and faster to Hassan. Tiger asked the old man he's going to be okay, right? The old man said he might lose control. Absorbed too much. The guy said that such abilities weren't bad for a human. But Hassan fell to the ground in this battle, apparently unable to dodge. The guy said that even though it was a little bit, Hassan hurt him. That's the difference between their abilities. Though a thief wouldn't understand that. The guy grabbed Hassan's face and told him to give up and go after him. After all, Emogi is waiting for him. When Hassan heard Emogi's name, he wondered if this was all his plan. He immediately started using his new powers. The guy told him it wouldn't work, but that was not the case. Hassan began to discover more and more of his new abilities. The boy saw the knives in front of him and asked. The guy was telling Hassan to let him go, but he felt he couldn't get free. Immediately, Hassan plunged all the knives right into his body. The guy called Hassan a fucking lunatic. He wants to be headless? And then Hassan used more and more of his strength and stabbed the guy in the chest. Did the guy tell Hassan that he thought his attacks would make a difference? Not a scratch on him after that. Hassan couldn't contain such strength and immediately shouted with a loud voice to the whole forest. He took the knife in his hands and pierced the fellow's chest again. Hassan started to use his chains and roll this guy up. The villain started to fight back and was very angry. Hassan used his iron hands and picking up the moment attacked him directly in the head. Hassan knocked him out with a single blow that even the boy's teeth flew off in all directions. It was only a matter of time before the final blow was delivered. Hassan saw the knife that dangled from his chest and sent his fist straight at it, thrusting it in deeper. Hassan calmed down and saw that his bones in his arms were broken, but his regeneration was doing fine. But then the guy pulled out a knife and asked Hassan what he already thought he had killed him. Hassan saw that he was still alive and immediately decided to launch an attack from his head. But the guy did as well. Hassan blew his head off and told him to die. And the whole time he kept attacking him from the head. And then the guys came in and saw what he was doing. Tiger didn't understand what was happening and asked the old man, what was that all about? Immediately, Hassan raised his head and changed his appearance. into a more intimidating person. At this time Goblin came to his house and sat leaning against the wall. He was thinking about something, and it did not leave his mind. He remembered Hassan asking him about his family and the people he was supposed to protect. Let him leave and never come back. Let him protect her, if she's so important to him. But then in a moment he saw the door of his house open, and someone asked, was the goblin waiting for him? And then Emogi and his men appeared in front of him. The boy said the men called him Emogi. Let the goblin answer the question. Emogi said it had to do with that outsider and the high school kid. Does he know where they went? They're pretty important to him. The goblin said confidently that he didn't know. He lost and was unable to pursue because of his injuries. Emogi calmed down and said he had one more question. Why is he gathering strangers here? Goblin saw Emogi's eyes and said he had no purpose. They're just destitute, with no purpose in life. Fame and fortune do not await all outsiders. They don't understand that. Emogi says he understands a little, but that's exactly the problem. Every outsider can influence this world. The goblin said he didn't understand him, what he was talking about. Emogi said he was taking them. All the outsiders. The goblin asked him why he would do that. Emogi said that the goblin himself said they were here without a purpose. He would give them a suitable role. Goblin saw that his business was bad and there were a lot of aliens here. They all ran up and asked what was going on. The goblin saw them all running this way and a fight broke out. He told Emogi to stop. Emogi told the goblin not to worry. They won't hurt them. They'll take them to a lab where they'll get special treatment. The goblin lost his temper and said in an angry voice that Emogi was a bastard, and immediately attacked him. Dryjiglot saw this and prepared to attack in return. Emogi stopped her and said that he would be a warm-up for him. The goblin kept coming closer and closer to him, and decided to make a devastating attack. Emogi saw everything and just stood still. Emogi simply dodged his attack and said that his targets were headed to one southern islet. The young man's mother was buried there. The goblin realized that this Emogi was playing with him. Emogi said it was obvious. He wondered where such loyalty to a mere human came from. The goblin released his gun and while launching his attack said to Emogi to shut his mouth. Emogi said he overestimated Goblin, and after blocking his attack, he realized he couldn't catch a tiger with that kind of strength. Emogi immediately used electricity abilities and let her in through the goblin's weapon. The villain asked the goblin, is he alive? They have to help, and they won't just give up on them. Emogi took off his gloves and started laughing loudly. The goblin saw this and told his men to scatter quickly. The guys didn't have time to scatter. Emogi let the electricity surge through them, burning them to the bone. The goblin saw it all with his own eyes, and even let out a tear of regret. After all, this was his family. Emogi said he was sorry. The test subjects were burned alive. His fault, goblin. It wouldn't have happened if he'd done his job. The goblin realized that he had sworn that he would never lose his family again. I promise that Emogi will choke in his own blood. The goblin improved and immediately wanted to attack his family's killer. Emogi was surprised to see his new appearance. Emogi said that it seemed Goblin was wrong. He never had a family. And then the goblin decided to kill him. Emogi used his magic and said they were all aliens, beings from other worlds. Some people from Goblin's family survived, and sitting outside they got caught in the rain. One of them asked what should they do now. The goblin told them to wait, he thought, and suggested they just divide everything up. It was 1898, in the city of Hanyang. He thought that if he shared with others, the world would be his. The old men asked him if he was giving them this precious grain, and immediately they all thanked him together. The bandits said they could take everything, if only they would spare them. And immediately they all sat down at the table and began to feast. The boys asked the chief that they had given all their rice. How should they proceed now? The goblin said there was nothing to worry about. They'll just steal it from the dirty nobles again. They've got plenty of it. And then after a while Goblin fell in love and decided to marry this girl and connect their lives. The goblin still tried to make his attack and kill this Emogi. He realized that there was nothing more to wish for him. Everyone in the state knew his name, and with his crew they stole from the villains and kept everything for themselves. And then the day came when tragedy struck and their territory burned to the ground. People, enemies, villains who disliked them, attacked them with their weapons. The goblin was on fire and shouted Manhwa, and then the goblin said he'd make a path for them, and for everyone to follow him. And then he saw his man bleeding and begging for help. At last the lad asked the chief what all this was about. Let him leave here immediately. The goblin found his woman, but she was already dead. He shouted her name for a long time, but got nothing in return. And then in a moment he saw that the shells were falling exactly on them. He did not run away and just covered his wife with his body. The troops headed into the flames to make sure they were all burned alive. But then the goblin took matters into his own hands and came out of the flames with an attack. He left no one alive because those bastards killed his family. And they left no one alive. The goblin saw his dead comrades and got more angry and tossed them into the fire to leave no trace behind. But all was not lost, for his wife was still alive. The goblin asked her if she was hungry. Mok said she's fine. More importantly, she can't feel her legs. She doesn't understand what happened. The goblin told her not to worry. He would be her feet all his life. A long time passed and it was already winter, and the goblin kept moving, hoping to find his place. The goblin saw the airplanes that flew over his head, and realized that at some point the humans had become stronger than the outsiders. Mok told the goblin to take a short break. The goblin said it would be better if they reached a place where they could get shelter from the snow. Mok told her husband that her times of 16 were like a real dream. She had aged so much, but he had stayed the same. Goblin said Mok is just like the first time. Does she think he's some kind of ghost? Is there a ghost who will divide grain among starving people? It is no longer a ghost. He should continue to live like that, taking care of others. Anyway, she had an interesting life when she met him. And then Goblin began to feel that Mok did not move and abruptly stopped talking. He immediately realized that she was dead and immediately cried. The goblin said he would wake her up as they went along. He swore to her that he would not lose his family again. Emogi unleashed his lightning attack and passed it right into the goblin's body. He stopped for a moment and they looked at each other, and the goblin collapsed to the ground. Emogi told Dryjacket that the goblin would be useful. Let her take him. Dryglot asked what to do with the village. Emogi smiled without thinking for a long time and ordered her to have her burn him to the ground. Having done this errand, Emogi stood in front of the village and watched smiling. On the White Flower Island, Lee arrives and tells someone that he's sure they're definitely here. And he hears some sounds. He took a good look and realized what he had found. Long hair, muscular body, but at the same time very flexible and concise movements of overflowing strength. Fox said it's just unimaginable energy. He's the god of war of the Eastern Sea, the strongest alien. The old man showed off his powers and Fox thought it was definitely Tiger. The old man pulled out his headphones and said he loved that part of the song. The commander was with him too, and asked him that this pumped-up type was the tiger. The fox said 100%. A tooth gives even. She asked him if he hadn't noticed them. The fox said right, he must have been concentrating hard. And then the log came out under his fear and he asked them who the hell they were. At this time, a study was being conducted in Hua's lab, and the goblin was put into a vessel and hooked up to the drug. Hua cheered and said great, just great. It had been a long time since she had such a strong specimen. It'll be fun to experiment on it. Drygelin immediately realized that she was crazy. Hua said she had to get it under control first. Otherwise, if the subject goes on a rampage, no one will be able to stop him. Drigalot said that if she had a difficult situation, Hua said she was glad she could be relied on. And she heard that the strategic team had failed. Drygelot thought and saw that even she had only recently learned this information, and confirmed her words. Hua said that waiting is a very tedious thing. When will they bring that guy to her already? Drigalot told her to keep her nose clean. Mr. Emogi will handle it himself. Hua laughed and said that she was apologizing. Impatience flirted inside her. She just wants to try so many things when the kid gets his hands on her. At that time on the White Flower Island, Fox asked the old man what's wrong with him. He is not their enemy. The old man said they attacked stealthily a few days ago, and now they're going straight for the open. Fox asked him what was he even talking about. The old man wouldn't talk to him, and immediately went on the attack. The old man saw that the guy dodged his attack and said, "Not bad. Then let him hold a second one." The old man once again hit right on target, and the fox managed to dodge all his attacks. The old man told the boy that he was a good rider and called him an infestation. Fox told the old man to listen to him first. This is too dangerous a situation to be fighting with each other right now. The old man said he doesn't talk to his enemies. How can he do that? The old man immediately used force and toppled the log on which Fox was standing. The old man got very angry and decided to pull out all the logs, and then with great force he told the guy to choke on them. The fox saw that he could not stop them and started to run. The old man laughed and said it was useless for him to run. Fox realized that this was starting to piss him off. He turned into a fox and attacked the old man. The old man was surprised and said that the boy was a master of fire. Let him pile into his arms. Fox said this was no time for a fight. And then the old man was blinded by the bright light and fell to his knees. The fox covered the old man around with fire and did not put it out. The old man opened his eyes and saw what was burning under him and started jumping. Fox asked the old man if they could talk now. Tiger heard strange noises and came to them. He asked the guy who he was. The old man got excited and said that Tiger had come, and then the fox was surprised and asked in wonder, "Tiger?" The old man told Tiger that it was an enemy, this time invading while he was musing. Fox asked, "What is he even talking about?" The tiger showed his claws and asked the guy, "Did he want to die?" He'd finish him off in one blow. And then Fox smiled and told Tiger that the Yaksha clan. And then Hasten came in and said that these were the same types who ordered Yang to kill Sojin. Hearing those words, they all froze in surprise. The fox asked Chaosen, did he know that the Yaksha clan was hunting him? Tiger told the boy to talk. The fox said that one by one the strangers began to disappear. He wandered around hoping to find them. Among the disappeared are many of his friends. There are those who want to swallow this land and this world whole. They hide under the females of the rich or gangsters, and they are all run by an outsider with incredible lucre. And he's talking about Emogi. And then Hasten remembered the attackers saying it was all for Emogi's ambition. And now it was the same name again. Upon arriving at the totem house, the old man asked the guy that Tiger is Emogi's last obstacle. The fox said you could call him the only creature the Yaksha clan leader fears. Apparently, he considers him the final wall on the threshold of achieving his goal. Tiger realizes that he is, after all, the protagonist. The old man said it turns out Hassan is the last piece of the puzzle. And then Fox was surprised to hear it. Hassan said that after receiving his absorption ability, Emogi would crush Tiger. The old man said it's like this. When the Yaksha leader gets his hands on Tiger's power, there will be nothing anyone can do to him. Hasten told Uncle that he would say in advance that he wouldn't run away this time. Even if death awaited him at the end, he would fight to the last man. The old man saw that Chaosen had indeed changed since that day. This was the determination of a man who had put his own life on the line. The old man refused him and said only over his dead body. He saw Emogi once. He can say with certainty that he is stronger than anyone else here right now. Even stronger than Tiger, asked Hassan. And then they all got ready and Fox said, something is coming towards them. He felt an unfamiliar energy, and then strange creatures attacked them. The old man got angry and said they had only fixed the house. The boys all let out their claws. He chased to fight the strange creatures. And then Drygelot appeared in front of him and said that Fox had said he wasn't with them. Let's let them finish the job today. She'll make sure he can't get up again. The fox asked the demon, did she come alone? Emogi appeared and said of course not. Emogi said it was a fitting night to start a new story. Hassan saw him and realized it was Emogi, Mom's nemesis. Emogi said they had a gift prepared for them. The fox said let them, just don't let it be said that his fellow black jaguar, red-bearded demon. And that's when Fox recognized the black jaguar. He immediately approached him and got a nibble in return. Emogi smiled and said what a touching reunion. And then he killed him right in front of Fox's eyes. Emogi asked him what were the others' names. Immediately Fox froze with regret, and all the creatures pounced on him. Emogi told Fox to try looking once. Tiger didn't wait and immediately went to fight. The old man didn't stand aside either, and using his logs, he immediately crushed all those creatures. Hassan decided to help them, and used his new iron fists, and smashed every creature that attacked him. Hassan got excited and realized that he could do it too. The main thing was not to lose concentration. But at that moment, Emogi saw it, and smirked a little. Emogi said, that's amazing. His answer that he has been searching for so long is here. For a while Hassan stopped and didn't realize what was wrong. Why wasn't his absorption working? Hua had told Emogi that they didn't have to worry. She had taken all the necessary safety measures. The guy won't be able to absorb the power of his rabbits, so use it to your heart's content. Emogi said he thought it was time to move on to the next stage. And then he asked them if they had summoned the master, and now it's his turn. The target, he hopes the master knows. And then the guy in the suit thanked Emogi for giving him a chance. He said he was just having trouble with that sucker. Emogi heard him and ordered him to go to battle. The guy immediately released his kites and aimed straight at Chaos, and the guy didn't have time to react and put his arm under the bites. Snake said they hadn't seen each other in a long time. With a puppy. Does he know how long he has waited for this moment? He has the urge to finish the guy off right now. But by handing him over to Mr. Emogi, he'll get a lot more. Emogi used his electricity against the serpent and said that his wish would be granted. But in the afterlife, Hassan hadn't expected this turn of events. For Emogi to destroy his ward when he was already captured. Hassan realized in a moment that it was poison. Immediately he began to turn, and straightway his eyes turned a red color. Chaos realized that the poison he had used had penetrated his body. From the intense pain, he began to warp. The old man saw the guy getting worse and shouted to him. Emogi watched all of this with so much pleasure. After all, the guy was now in his hands. The ringleader ordered Dry Jacket to take Hassan. She didn't hesitate long and set out for the target. Fox sat over the body of the red-bearded demon and apologized to him for not being able to save him. Suddenly my uncle started shouting for Fox to come to his senses and defend Hassan. He came to his senses and promised that those bastards would pay. The burpworm attacked Fox, but he was able to apply Fox art and a wall of flame in time. Dry Jacket called him a bloody fire fox, adding that such jokes wouldn't go over well with her. A battle began between the fox and the toadstool. Fox was very angry. He wanted to destroy her as well as her allies. The uncle grabbed Hassan's body and started running from there as fast and as far away as possible. Fox was about to think that he had destroyed the Dry Jacket. However, she opened her eyes again and said that Fox was pretty sexy when he was angry. Then the guy asked her if she really didn't give a damn about what had become of her comrades. Dryglot ironically replied that she didn't care because only the strongest survive in this world. Suddenly Fox noticed a change in the girl's appearance. He told him that he hadn't seen her like this last time, and it had been a long time since she'd been reincarnated. Fox answered her to have as much fun as she wanted since today was her last day. Dry Jacket started laughing and told Fox that he could say anything he wanted, but it still had to be proven in practice. They engaged in battle again. However, this time Dry Jacket was stronger. The fox was surprised that she was using wind pressure. In that case, the fox realized that increasing the distance was pointless and moved as close to the Dryglot as possible. The jerk told him that now he would definitely not run away and called him a smarmy dog. At this time, the boy began to apply the fox art. Fury and anger overwhelmed Fox. He gathered all his strength and began to shout that he was going to burn everything around him. The fox could already taste victory and shouted for Dry Jacket to try and escape if she could. Suddenly, Dry Jacket burst out and bowed to the fox. She began to shout for him to get up and show all that he could do. The ringleader watched the battle and remembered that it was a rather familiar scene to him. He began to tell Fox that in the year of the tree snake about 500 years ago, slumped on the ground, powerless. And then the fox realized who the leader was. The boy realized that the ringleader of the Dry Jacket was at the head of it all at the time. The ringleader replied to Fox that it took some time to brand them as yokai. The fox got angry and asked why he had done all this. The leader replied that it was all because they had ruined the nobility of the strangers, and that they were too close to humans. Glaber explained that they had to prove their existence on their own. Therefore, those who have become like humans and lost the pride of an outsider will be punished accordingly. Fox was furious at this, and he asked the ringleader if he knew how many of his friends had died in just this year. The ringleader replied that there was no point in outsiders getting in with a bunch of pathetic humans for a few thousand years. Fox lost his temper and started yelling that if he didn't kill him today, his whole long life could be called meaningless. He applied the fox art, followed by the coming of the heavenly fox. The ringleader ordered the Dry Jacket to engage in battle. Before she could even move, Fox began to attack the ringleader. Fox shouted that he would avenge his friends, even if he had to die today. The ringleader began to laugh and replied that he hadn't seen such a touching friendship in a long time. Fox wanted to apply the flame wall, however. He couldn't understand why nothing was coming out. The ringleader told Fox that he could try no more. After all, the leader controls the wind and rain, and it is clear that Fox can't beat him with fire. The teary throat didn't waste any time and attacked Fox. She knocked him to the ground with one blow. The leader asked him if he had any last words. An uncle appeared behind the ringleader's back and began shouting for him to stop immediately. Dry Jacket at this time flew up behind her uncle's back and felled him with one blow, adding that he was useless pieces of wood. The ringleader laughed and said that the uncle should have cowered in a corner and sat there quietly. He put his foot to his head and called him a companion of the shamaness, adding that he should have hid like a rat like he did back then. The ringleader told his uncle he'd send him straight to that bitch and get the guy. Tiger flew up to the ringleader and threw a punch, adding that he was talking too much. Tigger called out to Tigger and started yelling that she was his rival. Tiger destroyed Dry Jacket, saying he didn't have time to have fun with her as well. The ringleader was shocked at what he saw. Tiger told him that he could take that stuff back. The ringleader began to laugh and Tiger attacked him, asking him what was making him laugh. The leader replied that the whole situation made him laugh. The ringleader noticed that Tiger was moving so fast, and yet so quietly. The tiger grabbed the ringleader by the throat and said that it was finally quieter. The leader replied that times have changed, but the tiger was just as strong. Tiger was surprised and asked if they had seen each other before. The leader started laughing again. Tiger ordered him to shut up. The ringleader responded by advising him to take a good look. The ringleader then began to laugh even harder and started yelling for the tiger to look into his eyes. Then the tiger could not believe his eyes. He recognized that the ringleader was that protector from the bear tribe. Suddenly the ringleader managed to break free, and he began to tell the tiger that when he was the strongest. However, according to history, the bear clan won and the rest was just myth. The ringleader flew above the tiger and told him that while he slept those 5,000 years, the ringleader had time to get rid of all his obstacles. And he added that of the obstacles he had only the tiger left. He tied the tiger's hands and asked what he could do now without hands. The tiger broke off the snakes that enveloped his arms in a moment and replied to the ringleader that his strength was good, but his mind was small. However, the tiger did not take into account the power of the ringleader. The leader said that he was destined to be defeated because it was not right for a tiger to attack a dragon. The ringleader then struck a blow and knocked the tiger to the ground, saying it was no better than himself. To finally humiliate the tiger, the ringleader picked it up with her tentacle and asked why she liked a lowlife like the tiger. Tiger started laughing and replied to him that he was still such a freak with an inferiority complex. The headman then asked the tiger if he thought this was a good time to say such a thing. The ringleader became very angry and said that after such words, he would make the tiger beg for death. He started beating the tiger's body against the ground. The tiger could barely stand the pain. Finally, the leader put him on the ground and told him that he would now take his punishment. The ringleader began to use force and told the tiger that he could talk with his tongue, but let him look at himself now from the outside. Suddenly, the tiger came to his senses and began to use force, replying to the ringleader that one should not call oneself a dragon if one is an undersized lizard. The tiger threw a punch and asked the ringleader how the tiger's fist tasted to him. The ringleader lay on the ground and replied that he had wasted so much time. The ringleader didn't understand how a type that had been sealed for 5,000 years could still remain stronger than him. Tiger prepared to deliver the final decisive blow, but suddenly the ringleader had a third eye. The ringleader began to shout to the tiger that here he would meet his death, and then the tiger realized that the ringleader had become a Yakujin. At this time, the uncle came to his senses and could not believe that the ringleader had assumed such a form and had an eye on his forehead. Uncle remembered that Hasten's mother had once told him that a snake usually aspired to become a dragon, but if things failed, it would turn into a Yakujin. Then my uncle asked her what a Yakujina was. The shamaness explained that it was the name of an evil crystal composed of evil energy. And perhaps this is the very end of hell an outsider can reach. Uncle realized that the ringleader was the same Yakujin the shamaness was talking about, and he looked exactly like this. The uncle started shouting to the tiger that they should take Hassan and get out of there quickly, and to deal with the ringleader next time. The tiger answered him to shut up because the tiger intends to kill the ringleader today and now. The tiger came as close to the leader as possible to deliver a strong blow. However, The tiger felt a strong pressure that made him unable to move. In the moment the tiger managed to overpower the ringleader, he took the situation into his own hands, was able to land a few blows. The tiger did not manage to keep the situation under his control for long. The leader was very skillful in his defense. Uncle watched from the side and realized that the evil had completely consumed the ringleader, and the tiger was squeezing all the juices out of himself in this battle. Suddenly a fox appeared behind the uncle's back. The uncle was surprised that he was still alive. The fox was shocked at what had happened to the leader. The battle continued and the ringleader clearly held the lead in this fight. He completely enveloped the tiger's body with his tentacles. Tiger endured incredible pain. He felt as if all his bones were being crushed with a hammer. The ringleader admired himself and shouted that every next blow would make it hurt more. Tiger lost visual range perception due to not seeing one side. Hassan came to his senses and started yelling loudly to the tiger and asking if he was okay. Tiger, meanwhile, managed to break free and he fell to the ground. Tiger had spilled too much blood and his arms were not raised. At this time, the ringleader was coming down to the tiger while telling the tiger to try to rub his tongue now, for the ringleader was no longer the man the tiger knew him to be. The ringleader gathered all his evil power and decided to put a stop to it at last and destroy the tiger. The tiger lay on the ground exhausted and could not believe that this was the kind of death he would die. Suddenly an uncle appeared over the tiger's body and took the ringleader's blow upon himself. The uncle started shouting to the tiger to come to his senses immediately and get Hassan out of there because he can't lose any more of his dear ones in front of his eyes. Suddenly, the leader was attacked from behind by Hassan. Uncle and Tiger shouted at him to get out of there immediately. To somehow save the situation, Uncle started shouting to the tiger to grab Hassan while Uncle distracted the ringleader. However, the uncle noticed that there was something wrong with the tiger. Did he really become a Yakujin too? At this time, Hassan was holding the ringleader and saying that there was no way he was going to let the brat go. The boy shouted to the tiger to attack the ringleader. Hassan tried his best. He yelled at the tiger to finish off the ringleader while the guy held him. Uncle could see that this was not the same tiger as usual, and at this rate, Hassan might be in danger. When the ringleader noticed that the tiger and the old man were getting closer to him, he shouted that they would both be burned and used the technique. Eventually, the uncle couldn't take the impact and flew down to the ground. During the fall, he yelled that Hassan had to be saved. Hassan held the ringleader with all his might and shouted to the tiger that now was the right moment to strike. Finally, the tiger came to his senses and was ready to strike. Hassan shouted to the leader that he would never get out of there. The tiger struck and the shockwave threw Hassan to the ground. As Hassan fell, he shouted that he believed in the tiger because he was the strongest of the outsiders. The tiger didn't stop and continued to kill the leader. Emogi couldn't understand how the tiger had such incredible strength. Emogi fell to the ground and the tiger landed after him to deliver a decisive blow. But suddenly, a goblin appeared behind him. The goblin arrived with Dry Jacket. He knocked out the tiger and took the boy's body and Emogi's body. A short time later, Dry Jacket came to the lab to inquire about the ringleader's well-being. Hua revealed that there were some minor injuries present on Emogi's body, but the Lord couldn't be broken that easily. The burphead was annoyed and asked if it was mandatory to do the transplant now, and if it couldn't wait until the ringleader had fully recovered. Hua reminded her that Emogi-san's long-held wish was to get hold of the guy's power and be reborn into a previously unknown being. This infuriated Dry Jacket even more, and she started yelling that she had nothing against the transplant, but it could wait until the ringleader came to his senses. Hua replied that Dry Jacket just didn't trust her, and he added that he thought such injuries wouldn't be a problem for Emogi-san. Hua also said that if the ringleader failed to remove this kind of obstacle, it could be concluded that his vessel was incapable of more from the beginning. The burper lost her temper and grabbed Hua by the neck. Hua reminded her that the transplant had already begun, and if anything happened to him, it would affect the ringleader. To divert Dryglot's attention, Hua showed her that the birth of the strongest superhuman in history was now taking place before her eyes. Dryglot couldn't believe her ears. She ordered Hua to stop all of this immediately. Hua thought it was incredible and couldn't get enough of the fact that his hands would create the strongest superhuman. Dryglot tried to yell to the ringleader to get out of there soon and stop the grafting, but he didn't hear her. The jerk-off tried to punch Hua, but she realized it would only make things worse. Hua yelled that she didn't understand anything. At this time, Hassan came to his senses. He didn't realize where he was or what was even going on. The guy turned his head and saw Emogi. He wanted to break free and destroy the bastard. Dryglot and Hua noticed that Hassan had woken up. Hua couldn't believe his eyes. Hua was proud of himself and thought that now he would be able to do a bunch of different experiments. The machine began to run faster. Hassan didn't understand what was happening and asked me to turn the thing off immediately. The boy closed his eyes and everything seemed to stop. However, when he opened his eyes again, he was in some room with his hands tied. Hua was glad that Hassan was awake. He said that he had long dreamed of seeing Hassan in person. After all, Hua had spent so much nerve to catch some little man. Hassan began to shout and ask who he was and what this place was. Hua replied that it was not easy to get in and not easy to get out. Hua also added that Mr. Emogi no longer needs Hassan anymore, but he still wants to experiment a bit. Hassan began to ask what the scum had done to him. Hua laughed and told the boy not to die yet, or all interest would be lost. Hua along with the goblin approached Hassan and the guy realized that this scum, it was Hua. Hassan turned around and saw a crowd of strangers in front of him. He could not understand, for he had just seen Hua in front of him. Hassan started asking them who they were and what this place was, and where Hua had even gone. One of these strangers grabbed Hassan by the hair and told his ringleader that he was a pretty funny guy. Whereupon he struck Hassan and began to shout that she herself did not know where that freak Hua was, and he himself would like to punch him in the face. The strangers then told Hassan that he was now joining their class of 13. Hassan did not understand anything and asked again that he would now go to school. The stranger replied that he would, and that this is the kind of school where everyone is pissing each other off and no one can graduate. The stranger also added that they had become guinea pigs, trapped under that roof forever. He then told Hassan that he had been assigned to a lower-level area and suggested that they get along. Suddenly their chief shouted to the stranger and called him by name Jack. He ordered him to finish, and asked the girl Rita to check on Hassan. The girl began to pierce Hassan with her blue eyes. The boy couldn't understand what the feeling was. It was as if he would vomit in a moment. The girl began to pronounce medium-level control, superior flexibility, running and jumping skill, weapon summoning, telekinesis, regeneration, and reincarnation. Hassan realized that Rita had just analyzed his abilities. Jack asked the boy how he got so many powers. The chief asked Rita if she was sure she wasn't mistaken. The girl answered that there was something else and that wasn't all. However, after a moment, Rita said that she had just imagined it and that was all the ability she had discovered. The chief introduced himself to Hassan and said his name was Dampier. Dampier then told Jack that Hassan seemed to be stronger than him. Such a statement made Jack angry and he grabbed Hassan and started asking who he was. Hassan started yelling that he had to meet with Hua, and there was no reason for him to become his guinea pig. Jack started throwing punches at Hassan and said it wasn't up to him. Then Hassan asked him if he was afraid that Hassan was really stronger. Jack got even more angry. Hassan reminded him that he'd heard about his powers and asked him which one he should start with. The fight had begun. However, memories of how the damper wanted to finish him off every time popped into Jack's mind. Then he decided that he would get stronger and take revenge on everyone who had humiliated him. Jack screamed for Dampier to get out of his head. Jack began to pierce everything around him with fiery eyes. Hassan looked at this and replied that it was his turn. Jack didn't understand why he couldn't hit it. Hassan started yelling at Jack that if he was being bullied, why was he trying to do the same thing now? Suddenly Hassan's knives struck Jack, and also one of the knives hit the leg of Yuan's chubby boyfriend. Jack started yelling to the commander that he needed his help. The commander, however, stood aside. Hassan at this time struck the decisive blow and Jack fell to the floor completely exhausted and mangled. Jack lay there and asked the commander to help him. After all, they are a precious family and should help each other. And then the commander came up to Jack and put his foot on his head and said that they were not family. And he started smashing Jack's head. Hassan was shocked at what he saw. The commander went on and said that Jack was right about precious Jack, and began drinking Jack's blood. Hassan asked him that wasn't Jack his comrade. The commander began to laugh and replied that the loser was not his comrade. Also added that while Hassan is no replacement for Jack, he will now have to be his pawn. Hassan asked what would happen if he refused. The commander replied that his opinion was not asked and it was an order. Suddenly Tabesa walked up to Hassan and told Damper that she would set the kid's brains right. Hassan tried to figure out what her superpowers were, but he couldn't tell from the looks of it. Tabesa advised him to think of it as a self-presentation ceremony. Suddenly Tabesa disappeared and appeared behind Hassan's back. She began to strike confidently. Tabesa told Hassan that he was cute, but the boy couldn't understand what had happened. It was as if she had vanished. Dampier ordered her to stop. Tabesa replied that it wasn't often you got such interesting footage. Blood still continued to flow from the wound that Dampier had inflicted on Hassan and would not stop. Dampier asked Hassan how he was feeling and if he was having trouble regenerating. Hassan realized he had lost too much blood and at this rate he would just pass out. Dampier started laughing and said he hadn't had this much fun fighting someone in a long time. Hassan trying to keep his defenses up, but he's not having any more strength. Dampier manages to knock the guy out. Dampier ordered the chubby guy to immediately drag Hassan's body over. While was carrying him, Hassan woke up. Hassan couldn't understand how this guy had so much strength. His hands had turned to stones. Hassan asked not to waste his strength. The boy replied that Hassan had already spilled a lot of blood. Hassan asked to let him go, and promised that would not be harmed. Hassan said he would just leave, and then asked where he was going to go. After that, Hassan asked him to tell him what this place was. Told him that it was a prison where many strangers had been thrown in, but no one had been able to get out. Hassan said that everyone was probably looking for him and asked if there was a way out. Replied that there probably was, but that there was no way out. Explained that this is the 13th grade, and their zone is even despised in the wine. Besides the 13th class, there are 12 other classes. The guy also added that they are the deepest, and Hassan will have to make it through every class. Hassan replied that it was possible to just pass, and said that it wouldn't work because the classes hate each other. Besides, before looking for a way out, Hassan needs to figure out how to escape the commander. He despises weaklings like but at least he doesn't kill them. Explained to Hassan that if he didn't want Dampier to suck all the blood out of him, he'd better comply. Hassan replied that he didn't want to follow a psycho who got rid of even his comrades. Said that they had come. Hassan asked what kind of place it was. Asked him not to ask anything and not to resist. And if Hassan continues to go against the commander, eventually will have to fight Hassan. Said he's not sure he can beat Hassan and he's even scared because he's going to die like Jack. Then Hassan asked the boy how his leg wound was. Replied that it was already fine. Hassan apologized and said that it was an accident. Said he had to go and added that Hassan could call him if anything happened. Also asked Hassan not to talk to the guy across the hall. Tabesa asked Rita if she liked Hassan, and she said he was a real cutie. Dampier grabbed Rita by the throat and said that she knew originally that Hassan was human. Tabesa began to tell Dampier that there was no way he was carrying a human being in such a place. Dampier ordered her to shut up. Then he threatened Rita to tell her the truth. Blood started pouring out of Rita's mouth, and she said she knew, but she couldn't believe it, so she thought she'd just imagined it. Dampier continued beating Rita. Tabesa asked him to stop. Dampier then reminded Rita that one finger was enough to destroy her. Tabesa asked Dampier how he himself knew that Hassan was human, short of tasting his blood. Hassan replied that he didn't understand where the man got such power from. He added that he should contact Hua and ask him what was on his mind. Dampier told Rita that she was only still alive because she was good for her, and he added that that very debt was the problem. Why did he let her live? A weakling who couldn't catch a single mosquito. Dampier told her that if she wanted to live, she had to obey him without any bickering. Hassan remembered his uncle and the tiger and hoped that someday he would see them again. But the boy realized that hunger would kill him faster than that. And then Rita brought him food. The girl set his bowl on the floor. Hassan asked at least to untie his hands. Rita replied that he didn't have the ability to do so. Hassan had gotten himself knives and was trying to hold the bowl with them to eat. It was the first time he had used such fine control. Suddenly a voice across the room told Hassan that he could safely uncuff himself with his knives. Hassan was startled and knocked over his bowl of food. The guy across from him started laughing loudly. Hassan asked him what funny thing he saw. The guy replied that what a silly neighbor had stopped by. Hassan realized he was the guy had advised him not to talk to. The guy told him that he must have been hungry. Hassan replied that he was hungry, but only his food had tipped over. The boy said it was obvious that he had crossed Dampier. Hassan asked the guy if he'd been in that cell for a long time. The guy said a month or so. but at times he'd had a long nap so he didn't know for sure. Hassan wanted to ask what his name was, but the boy asked him to be quiet, since she was close by. It was Tabesa. She started asking the guy how he was doing, and if he had made up his mind in the meantime. Tabesa said that if it weren't for him, they wouldn't have been able to sweep away the 12th grade, though with a commander they would have caught them. The guy replied that he was fighting to protect his family. Tabesa replied that let's say that was true, and asked why then he was putting his life on the line and helping them get out. The girl told him to bring the escapees and kill them in front of the commander, asking for his forgiveness, and then they would work together again. Tabesa told him that Dampier wanted to execute him. The boy replied that if she was done, she'd better get out of here. Tabesa replied that it would be a pity if everyone knew Chun would end his life like that. Hassan realized that Chun was the Chok dynasty military official. He realized that Chun's words about helping someone out meant that there was a way out of here. Then Hassan asked Chun if he knew how to get out of this horrible school. Chun explained that what was meant was escape, not from the school, but outside of class 13. Hassan asked, I mean in a class of 12? Chun replied that's right. Dampier ordered him to finish those two. He justified it by saying he didn't want someone who was a zero in combat. Hassan asked what he did then. Chun replied that how can you kill those who don't even know how to fight? After all, there must be pride after all. Hassan realized that Chun was much better than he had thought. Then Hassan asked what those two ended up doing alive. Chun replied that he probably did because he cut everyone off when the Zone 12 types broke in. But Chun said they are still in the school and the two of them can't get out. Chung said he did the best he could, and now he's sitting in agony. And those two are probably on the run, hiding wherever they can. Rita walked in and asked Chun what he was carrying, since Jeff and Tammy, whom he had rescued, had been caught by a search party sent by Dampier, and added that in an hour they would be executed in the assembly hall right before his eyes. Hassan started yelling that he was just crazy. Chun got very angry and said that he would destroy Dampier. Rita told them to see for themselves what they could do to Dampier in that condition. Rita left and Chun called her a cunt for not even helping. Hassan didn't understand why she was so cruel. Suddenly Hassan noticed a bunch of keys on the floor. He used his knives to pull them closer. Chun realized that Rita was trying to help them escape. The keys were almost in their possession when suddenly someone's hand took them away. She had come to persuade Chun one last time, and saw them trying to escape. Tabesa asked if it was Rita's rat. Tabesa said she would tell the commander and they would see each other at the execution site. Chung started yelling at her to stop. It was time for the execution. Dampier ordered everyone to watch carefully as they would judge the traitors. And they would start with those who abandoned their class and ran away. Un couldn't believe his eyes that it was Jeff and Tammy. He had heard they were on the run, and it turned out they had been caught. Dampier went on to say that they would be followed by two others who had facilitated the escape of the first. Chung was brought out. Dampier also said they would end up on the bitch who dared to taunt him, and ordered Rita to be captured. Dampier started beating Rita. This made Un very angry, but he couldn't do anything about it. Dampier then said it was time to begin, and ordered the old man and the juvenile to be killed. As suddenly Chun fell to his knees and asked Dampier to stop and save their lives, and then he would do whatever Dampier asked. Dampier started laughing and said that Chun himself kneeled before him, but that was not enough. He then attacked Chun and asked him if he was ready to do anything. Chun replied that he was willing to do anything as long as they didn't kill anyone present. Dampier agreed. Un watched as Hassan helped Rita recover and asked if she was okay. Dampier said that if everyone was happy with his decision, it was time for him to enjoy himself. And he asked again if Chung was willing to do anything. Whereupon Dampier said that in that case, let Chun finish those two off with his own hands. Chun got angry and started yelling that this was not their agreement. Dampier replied that it was better not to resist. Chun said he wouldn't do that. That's when Dampier turned around and threw a punch at the old man. The old man asked Chun to keep Tammy safe. The old man's body was literally torn apart. Chun started screaming. The old man had destroyed himself with his ability, so he could not endure Dampier's blows. Dampier said that if the old man had died himself, they now had the little one next. Chun yelled at him to finish him off. Un watched little Tammy crying behind the old man. The boy realized it was dirty and low. Un was very angry. He started shouting to Dampier that he wouldn't forgive him anymore, and shattered Chun's shackles, unfreed Chun and asked him to take revenge and destroy that scum for everything he had done. Chun freed himself and told Dampier that he would be punished for his brutality. Dampier replied that someone had told him that Chun was stronger than him and it was about time he checked it out. The fight began and Dampier dodged and ducked. Chun gave him his first serious wound. The Damper got very angry and Chun asked him if it had been a long time since he had tasted his own blood. The Damper laughed and replied that he wasn't interested in his own blood. Suddenly Tabesa attacked Chun from behind, but Chun had time to react and defend himself, telling her that she could think of something new in the meantime. Suddenly Tabesa disappeared, but Chun knew that he would still hit her with his sword. As it happened, Tabesa was defeated. Damper really didn't like that and said that now he would have to deal with Chun himself. Dampier made a net out of Tabesa's blood and tied Chun with it so he couldn't swing his sword. At this time Tabesa begged the commander in her last breath to spare her, but Dampier struck her and said that he had not yet tasted her blood. It wasn't until Damper wanted to taste Tabesa's blood that Un struck him and broke the fingers on his hand. Un also helped to get out of Chun's net. Damper got angry and said he would destroy that fat pig. Chun pulled himself together and said that they should be done with this freak by now. Suddenly, he was accosted by Rita. The girl grabbed his hand and said that this was his true power, surpassed once. A blue aura began to thicken around the sword. Chun told Rita that he hadn't asked her to do that. The girl said that now was not the time to talk. At this time, Dampier was striking Un. Dampier shouted that he was going to send him to the other world to the old man. Chun instantly rushed to his aid. Without much effort, he severed Dampier's arm. Then Chun remembered Rita's words and realized that her ability was to awaken other outsiders. Chun said he heard that when Dampier was on the surface, he was called the Duke of Blood, and asked Dampier that he wouldn't be begging for mercy with a reputation like that. Dampier started yelling and begging to stop, saying that he didn't think absolutely anyone could become class commander. Dampier then told Chun that if he killed him, who would then communicate with the wardens. Chung asked what other wardens were, and Dampier replied that this school could not be 100% lawless. And he added that, in other words, there are those who control everything that happens inside. Rita asked what it mattered, and Dampier said they wouldn't take it quietly that they'd gotten rid of the commander. Chun then asked why the wardens didn't intervene when the class of 12 stormed in. Dampier began to yell that he then almost had to turn himself inside out, settling the whole situation with the wardens. Chun thought about it and said that he didn't believe in such a thing. Chun then began to attack Dampier. Dampier didn't have time to react to his attack and set up his wounded arm. He ended up losing it completely. Hassan walked up to Dampier. Dampier was startled and asked the guy what he wanted, and painfully fast Hassan for a human. Hassan smiled and said that Dampier was a real meanie. Dampier got angry and decided to attack Hassan. But the guy got there before him, and when he attacked, he told him to give up. Dampier said with a loud laugh that they would have to put their game on hold for later. His body decomposed into 1,000 bats. Un told Rita that Dampier had that ability, and asked if the girl knew about it. Rita replied confidently that she knew, but she didn't know it was being used to escape. Chun whipped up one of the mice and said that as fate would have it, Dampier was gone. As of today, the 13th grade is free. Tammy couldn't believe that they were finally free, and Rita replied that they didn't have to worry about their lives anymore. Chun raised his sword above his head, and everyone cheered in unison at their victory over the Damper. One of the guys said that you can't forgive that Tabesa. The people around them started shouting that they should kill that nasty bitch, but then Hassan intervened and pulled the boy back and told them to wait. He understood their feelings, but he had to restrain himself. Chun asked in surprise, why leave her alive? Hassan replied that they would need her to communicate with the wardens. Meanwhile, in the sewer, a stranger came out of the water. He looked around and saw a pile of corpses. He did not understand what had happened. The bearded man replied that it was Dampier's subordinates who did it. The bearded man replied that Dampier's subordinates had done it. The stranger told the bearded man to put him in touch with Eva. Robert told Commander Gunther. Gunther said nothing and told Robert that it was time for them to move out. After all, it was time for them to prepare for war. Meanwhile, at the school's headquarters, in the control and management office, the overseer stood in front of the tracking systems. The warden couldn't believe that the boys had managed to drive the Damper away. She wondered where he was now. At this time, the wounded Dampier was crawling without an arm and one leg. The warder said he was unlucky. Hua walked in with his subordinate goblin. The overseer greeted them immediately. Hua smiled and said they hadn't seen Euphemia in a long time. The warder asked to just call her Eva. Hua said that no matter how many times he looks at her, she always seems so brave and reliable. Eva said it was all thanks to his mercy. Hua laughed and told her not to exaggerate, though she is indeed a true masterpiece among all his works. But suddenly the system crashed and Eva saw it. She approached the girl and asked what was the matter. The girl replied that Gunter from class 11 wanted to talk to her. Eve asked her what was the business of such an urgent conversation. The girl replied that he was requesting permission to go to war with class 13. Hua heard them talking and thought about the war permit. Immediately he burst out laughing loudly. Hua asked the girl, "Is that person Hasten just in class 13? The girl replied that was correct. Hua asked Eve if she had ever seen the beauty when a drop of ink falls into clear water. Eva replied with confidence that she had seen everything. Hua asked her what she was waiting for. She could give permission. After all, that's what their school is all about. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Long live another festival of carnage and bloodshed. Meanwhile, Dry Jacket was enjoying her time in her office. But then there was a knock at her door. She asked, "What's wrong?" The guard came in wounded and said that Ken's office had been attacked. And that's where Dry Jacket didn't see it coming. She asked if it was him again. The guard said this was the 5th time. The attacker said he was looking for some guy named Hassan. The jiggler said that this nutcase was totally out of line. The guard told the boss he had to do something about it. Dryjaglan thought of Imugi-san and wondered when he would return back to them. Information came in at the safe house of the National Intelligence Agency, and the captain couldn't believe it. The captain asked as the Yuksha clan office was trashed again, "Is the guy sure it's Tiger?" The guy replied, "That's right, there were CCTV cameras nearby. And if she looked at the photos from the scene." The captain looked and said that she certainly understood that he wanted to find Hassan, but his methods only made things more difficult. But then the door opened and Fox came into the room. The captain asked him if he recognized anything. Fox replied that there was no information. The captain became agitated and asked, "No information at all?" Fox asked, "What information is there?" Imugi and Takabe all evaporated as one. Fox said that he had already gone around to all his comrades from Korea, but there was no catch. The commander asked if they were abroad. Fox asked his boss if she would let him fight a demon once. The boss said no. No fights for her. Has he forgotten who she is already? The fox was outraged and said it was intolerable. The captain said they needed an excuse to attack a big shot like a demon. But then another guy came in and told the supervisor that some woman wanted to meet her. The captain was surprised at such a meeting, and with a woman. A girl with a dog came into the office and sat down at the desk. The captain asked if she could check with her about what she was here for. The girl apologized and replied that she couldn't contact her beforehand. She had come to help them. The captain asked what kind of help we were talking about. The girl said that as far as she knew, they had been after Yuksh for a long time. She's sure they've already managed to figure out the connection between the Yuksha clan and the commercial organization that Imugi heads. Captain was surprised at such words and couldn't understand where she got such information from. The girl said that despite all the denunciations, they still can't determine which direction to take, which makes the investigation stand still. There are hidden forces that are preventing them and trying to disarm them. Imuga's influential connections in media, political, and business circles. All the information about it is right here. At this time in Taba's room, she was alone sitting and thinking. And then the guy asked her that she could get in touch with this warden. Tabesa replied that theoretically no. It can only be done by the class commander. Hassan said they don't have him anymore. What if they picked a new one? Chun immediately thought about the commander. Chun hugged Hassan and said it's already decided. The new commander of Class 13, it would be him now. Hassan was surprised and asked, "Shouldn't it be the strongest?" Chun started to refuse and said it wasn't going to happen. With his temper, it's best not to. Hassan realized that he was not a stranger. In a human. Tabesa said that since they had left her alive, she would tell them something. Whatever the reason, after such a mess, the wardens would not sit idly by. And then everyone got scared and asked why. Tabesa said they might not act on their own. but they might send someone from another class. The guys all thought and didn't know who was even in the rest of the classes. They wooker that class 13 was at the bottom. The higher classes are made up of outsiders with similar abilities. Anything that doesn't fit their division is dumped here, in class 13. Chun lost his temper and asked what they were calling him and the gun stuff. Just then he stopped and Chun said they had already come. A great rumbling noise broke out, and an army of strangers were heading towards them. The boys asked who they were. Were they, by any chance, from class 11? Gunther told his brothers it was time for revenge. Let them enjoy them to the fullest. The strangers immediately swooped down on the guys and began to destroy them. They argued with the guys who dare they bark at. But then Chue intervened and asked, how dare they make a buffoonery in someone else's territory? Lucas told the commander that he would handle it himself. Gunther accepted that and gave him permission. Tear them to pieces. Lucas immediately turned into a huge monster. Gunther told him to kill those wretched creatures, and to bring them to the graves of his dead brothers. Hassan, when he saw this, Lucas realized what the inmates from 11th grade were like. Chun asked the commander what would they do, or should he decide with him himself. Came out and said that he would fight him himself. Immediately Lucas saw the kid come out to meet him, and immediately picked up speed to attack him. One of the people said, you've got to be so stupid. You're gonna take Lucas head on? Was not so weak either and fought Lucas with such determination, for he could match him in strength. Withstood such force, and was saying that he had succeeded, but his feet kept driving into the ground, and turned to stone. Lost his temper, for he was sick of this fight. He immediately punched Lucas with his stone hands, and broke his fong. Lucas felt such pain, realized the guy had broken his fong. Thought his damage was considerable. He didn't even twitch. Lucas asked where is Dampier? Tell him to come out of his hole immediately. If they don't finish him off, there's no point in all this. Said to let the boar defeat him first before looking for Dampier. Lucas was very angry at such words, and immediately lashed out at him. Told himself that he would definitely win. Stopped him and said let him get some use out of it too. Lucas asked him if he was serious about this. Lucas unhooked himself from and immediately launched an attack, piercing his body with his fong. This made weakened. Hassan saw this and immediately shouted to Yunu. But Lucas threw him aside like a rag with his fong. Held his wounded chest and told the guys to forgive him. This is his limit. Why is he so pathetic? Said he wanted to help the guys. Rita walked up to him and poked his arm. She told him to stand up and not to give up. Out of all of them, he is the most conscientious. Let believe in himself as much as they believed in him. And then felt something and didn't understand. Where did he get his sudden burst of strength from? And then he realized that he had overcome his boundaries and become a true transcendent. Did not hesitate and got to his feet with renewed vigor. Lucas reached out to Rita and asked what the heck were their antics during the fight, but didn't dare to do that, and immediately launched a fist attack. That stone fist just flew off Yuan's hands and dealt damage to Lucas from afar, and then stuck to his body. The guys said Yuan's whole body turned to stone. He's never evolved to that. Used his new abilities, and used the ground to immobilize Lucas. He didn't understand what had happened or how it was possible. Went to attack Lucas and called for Chun to help him with his weapon. He immediately came running to help him. Chun jumped on and with a double attack, struck with his sword. Chun stopped for a moment and didn't understand why his blades didn't go any further. And then Lucas saw Robert come to his rescue and save his life by putting his body up. Luca asked him why he was climbing. Robert said he couldn't let him die, and immediately tossed Chun aside. Robert decided to turn into a beast too, and straight up did it. Robert said, coming out, Chun is the swordsman who destroyed the 12th grade. Chung said there was a bear standing in front of him. He had once caught a couple in the winter mountains. He immediately drew his sword. At that time in the parking lot, the captain and the boys came to a place. Fox asked them, is this place definitely here? The captain said that's right. They tapped the phone call. It's the representative of the ruling party. Fox said Imugi had managed to make a third-rate politician of a disintegrating family into a representative of a powerful party. The captain said he had sponsored him for 10 years. Fox said it turns out Yuksha and Cho Yong are here for the transfer of illegal political capital. And then Fox said someone was coming out. The captain said it's Frederick from the Yuksha clan. Fox asked who was that next to him. A bodyguard? Somehow he looks familiar. He asked the captain, should he advance now? But she said it was early. The captain said they'd start by taking a picture of the evidence. And then the bodyguard heard the sound of the snapshot and said that there were rats lurking somewhere nearby. The bodyguard showed his strength and said it was best to catch them. Immediately he attacked the car. The bodyguard immediately swiped his hand through and grabbed the phone. Getting it, he smashed it into small pieces. The bodyguard smiled and said there must have been a lot of important stuff on the phone, and apologized to them. The fox was surprised and said he didn't think Yen was bringing a stranger with him. Frederick told Jen to follow them. They immediately gathered in a group and ran out of the parking lot. And the bodyguard stayed there alone to destroy the rats. The bodyguard immediately applied his strength and said that the bloody mice were climbing out. The fox saw it and said that the alien's arms were getting longer. The captain asked if there were aliens like that. Fox said it was the first time he'd ever seen such a thing. So he fought him and he immediately attacked. The fox saw that he wouldn't have time to attack and decided to dodge. And the alien missed and hit the wall. Fox saw his hand stuck in the wall and immediately picked up the moment and struck with his foot. The stranger asked Fox, is he the nine-tailed one? He had heard a little about him earlier. His face looked familiar. Fox said that Ju-ho was a medalist in an Asian judo tournament. He didn't know he was a stranger too. Isn't aliens' participation in such competitions considered cheating? Alien said he thought he was aware of it himself, but sometimes long life gets boring. Fox asked him what was it about the silver medal that stopped him. Conscience suddenly appeared. The stranger asked, conscience? Isn't that what people care about? The stranger said that the one who took the gold gave him a little something for his paw, and then he attacked. The stranger told Fox that he knew he would do that, and immediately he was able to grab Fox's head. The stranger didn't bother to deal with him, and immediately pelted him to the ground. He just smeared him all over the place. The fox crashed into the wall and then the alien attacked, and he still managed to dodge such a strong attack. The alien attacked him and told him he was finished, and then Fox used his powers and set off an explosion. The stranger started looking around and saw no one. At that time Fox stood aside and said that he almost died. The fox thought it would be difficult to keep his distance with such an opponent. Then he would put all his power into one blow and finish him off. The fox immediately jumped out at him and used a jet of flame. The stranger was startled by this, seeing the stream of fire that was flying at him. But then fire safety kicked in, and the fox fire was immediately vaporized. The fox tried to use his fire, but nothing worked. When the stranger saw this, he laughed out loud and said that the fire had gone out. Fox said he hadn't thought of that at all. At this time the war was all going on in the assembly hall, and the boys were fighting the class of 11. What's wrong with this furry one? He had already stabbed him several times. June asked him, Robert, why hasn't he died yet? Robert says, that's it? Is he holding a sem or a toothpick? Chun saw the team leader and realized that he hadn't wanted to use this thing before fighting him. Well, I guess he'll have to now. Chun immediately released his stream of energy and was covered in blue flames. This kind of power was unbelievable to him. Everyone at that moment was surprised at what they saw. Chun gathered his energy and attacking said to the bear. Such a strong attack was beyond the bear's grasp, and he received a huge lesson on his body. Chun didn't feel sorry for him and immediately attacked with his sword once more. The bear collapsed to the ground bleeding. Chun said it was time to blow its head off. He immediately launched an attack on its head. The girl who was held captive by the guys managed to get out and realized that in such a situation it was better to escape. Chun launched a crushing attack, but nothing happened to the bear. He asked, how is this possible? The bear immediately took the sword in its mouth and broke it into small pieces. Chun was even more surprised. The girl went into that room and saw that it wasn't a fight but pure carnage. But then Hasten decided to help his friend and struck the bear with his fist so that it could let Chun go. Hassan saw Tabum and wondered why she had come here. But he could not be distracted, for the beasts were attacking him. Hassan could see that they had no end in sight. He thought they would kill the leader and the matter would be settled, but there was no way to get to him. Hassan immediately saw that he was being attacked from behind by a bear, and was able to turn around and hold him back. But then he got the idea to use Tabesa. Gunther said they were almost done. Why hasn't Dampier shown up yet? His class is on the verge of extermination. Gunther sensed that something was wrong here, His guard told the commander that they were being attacked from behind. He said levitation was cool when he was attacking, and then he hit the target. Hassan didn't stop there and continued to attack further, not to leave their captain alive. Gunther, receiving damage, thought, when did they manage to get so close? And then his guards were worried about their commander. Hassan raised his knife and told everyone to listen to him. If you don't stop now, you can kiss your commander goodbye. Gunther saw the knife in front of his face and told Hassan to kill him. And here the boy did not expect such a turn of events. Gunther started to turn and said, "Still such trinkets." Hassan saw him turning and decided to strike. But its power was so strong that Hassan flew backwards from such electricity. Immediately he turned into a wolf. Gunther asked the kid, did he really want to kill him with that toy knife? He praises the idea, kid. Hassan hadn't expected to see such a thing, but this commander was also bigger than all of them taken. How is that even possible? Alien and Fox were all fighting, but the guy couldn't use his powers against him and was taking a lot of damage. The stranger grabbed Fox by the head and lifted him into the air. To him, Fox was like a punching bag and a ball. The stranger said he thought it was a good idea to call it a day. Even the rain had already stopped. The stranger told the fox to make it rain again because it was hot. Fox didn't say anything and started laughing. The stranger asked him if he was laughing. Has he lost his mind? Fox told him to take it easy on the car. Turning back, he saw a headlight heading straight for him. It was the commander, and she said it was going to hurt. She immediately hit the gas slipper and pinned this alien right into the wall. It even made him bleed. The captain got out of the car and, pointing her gun, told him not to move. The stranger asked her, "Isn't she a cop? I'm not sure they're allowed to be AWOL out there." The captain said scum like him fall under the exception. And then she fired a clip of bullets right at the alien. The stranger got angry and asked the girl who she thought he was. And then the captain was surprised and couldn't understand why she couldn't move. She still managed to get a shot off. But the alien pounced on her, hoping to kill her and tear her to pieces. But then Fox ran up and grabbed her aside. He could see she couldn't handle him. The fox apologized to her and said that the fire would certainly be extinguished by water. But what if there was excellent fuel? The stranger saw that Fox was using gasoline and realized his business was bad. Fox pointed the fire and said it would be a little hot. The stranger could not escape and remained under fire. He screamed in pain. The fox saw that he was still alive and immediately used the curved flame sword, and attacking said that he was finished. Lee immediately plunged this sword straight into the alien's head. The villain did not resist for a moment and immediately collapsed to the ground. At that time, the battle between the classes was still going on, and Hassan tried to resist them by fighting as a captain. Hassan didn't understand how he could be so fast, and then unshouted to Hassan, for he was slightly hurt. Hassan didn't want to show his strength, and from his wound, he couldn't help himself and pulled all his strength out. Gunther was surprised to see the gift of regeneration. He asked Hassan who he was. Was it refined by Hua too? Gunther said he'd never seen so many incompatible abilities in one body. He's not an outsider, is he? Hassan told him to stop talking. Let him attack already. Gunther wondered why Hua had thrown him in here. Chun saw that and said Hassan started with a glow stick? That's smart. But that handsome guy is not a weakling. Let's help the commander. Chun pulled out his second sword and said that the leering man would go to the other world first, and immediately pounced on him. Chun said big guys like him are especially clumsy. Let him play with himself. Chun didn't notice the bear had already turned around, and immediately received a counterattack that even he was hurt. Chun stood up and said that the bear was a fucking slut. But one did not give up and stood aside, but fought with the boar. Shouted to Chun and Hassan that he would help them out. All the way in and out these things were coming at him. At this time, Hassan was launching a barrage of attacks at Gunther. Hassan saw that Gunther's speed and strength, all at the highest level. It was something like if he was fighting Tiger. Gunther grabbed Hassan by the neck and asked, "Is he exhausted yet?" His fists had gotten painfully slow. Rita saw this and realized that Hassan couldn't handle him. It's unrealistic in this condition. Chaosan was able to tell Rita to awaken his power as well. Rita understood and said that now was the right time. A powerful and sincere desire to become stronger. A dangerous situation in which her life is at stake. All conditions are met, So why isn't the activation working? Is it really about the fact that Hassan is human? Gilbert launched an attack and told the guy it was over. Hassan fell to the ground and began to lose blood. He felt like he couldn't speak. It will take quite a while to recover. Gilbert said that even if the alien had the gift of regeneration, it would still die if you ripped its head off. Gilbert roared and asked Hassan what would happen in his case. At this time, in the control room, Hong and the girl stood looking at all of this. Hua started laughing and said, "It's amazing. He's thrilled. All of them are straight out of their skin." The girl said she was right. Every one of them is desperate. Hua said that he had killed 2 birds with 1 stone and collected research materials and lifted his spirits. The girl asked Hua why did he block the absorption abilities. Isn't that guy's true gift? Hua said that only Mr. Imugi now possesses the ability of absorption. It's a gift that should only be reserved for the great. Why does the world need 2 of them? The girl said that's what it was all about. She asked her to apologize to her. Hua started laughing loudly and asked, how will this guy act now?